Thanks for checking out the pre-party.
Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Hey, what's up, pals? This is the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal, and the man right here, that'd be none other than DKM. And we're here to talk to you on this beautiful Thursday about professional wrestling. In fact, not just professional wrestling. We're here to talk to you about the National Wrestling Alliance. And it's been quite the week because a lot of interesting things have happened. DKM, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm surviving.
I mean, that's all we could ask for. Sorry, I just want to turn on the fan. It already got hot in here. As you guys know, the Alliance guys have been reduced to one number, or reduced by one number. There's the three of us now, and maybe Jaden will be joining us later, maybe not. But DKM and I are both fully caught up on all the offerings of NWA over the past week and a half, and so we'll be talking about Crockett Cup. We'll be talking about the pre-shows for Crockett Cup, and then of course we'll be talking about NWA Power that just aired Tuesday. Some of you will watch it on Thursdays. I do see we've got a full house. Our pal Tim with NWA Gold, Young Riders here, Dave Scooby's in the house, Wrestling with the MMA is here. Thank you guys for checking us out and being a part of the show each and every week. We're here on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Share if you like it, and if you don't like it, well, then change your channel. DKM, we have a new World Junior Heavyweight Champion. We have a new NWA National Champion. We still have the same reigning World Heavyweight Champion. What did you think of Crockett Cup, sir?
Boy, was that a tale of two nights or what?
100%.
I mean, I'll be honest. Night one didn't do it for me.
Same.
It was very mixed in my bag. And although I understand now why they made some of the booking decisions they did, I don't know why they made all the booking decisions they did. And I don't know that there was anything that just blew me away on that show, on night one. So, you know, there were a couple of head scratchers and a couple of you got to be kidding me, and a couple of what crack were you smoking? And outside of that, not just a lot to talk about. So
Being there
yeah,
live,
night two on the other hand, damn, that started hot and went all the way, and they did some classic old school booking and swerves and screw you and that type of stuff. Man, I was in love night two.
Yeah, night two might possibly have been the best NWA produced show in this modern Lightning One era. For everything that you just said, we had some pretty good payoffs. We had some excellent wrestling. I was surprised by a lot of the action that we saw. I was impressed by some of the new faces that we saw. But I also feel like they did a really good job of booking the heavyweight title match. I felt like they did a really great job of booking the women's title match. The national championship was a thing of beauty. I don't think I've seen a better angle play out in the NWA than that one. The TV title was honestly, that was Tyrus's best match I've ever seen him have in the NWA. And it just felt like everything hit right. And for me, that's super important because when you're trying to get me to pay and spend my money on a show, like I flew all the way out to Nashville. That wasn't a short drive for me. I had to fly, hotels, restaurants and everything else. I mean, that's gets pretty expensive. So night one severely left a bad taste in my mouth. Night two was such a better night. And I've seen some of the comments. Young Rider post Strictly Business losing to Gold Rush. Laugh my ass off. What the fuck? And I hear you, man, because I hear what you're saying. Like, I honestly thought that match was going to be over in like 5 seconds. Like, I thought that it was going to end. I thought it was going to end with the master lock. I thought for sure that was the end of the match. But
me too. I was like, they're like, the bell hasn't rung yet. I'm like, well, someone ring it so we can call it.
Yeah.
But at least now I understand why it was booked that way.
Right. And I mean, I think with everyone else could appreciate that. If you guys don't know, it kind of got leaked out. Both Latimer and Adonis are injured, and Adonis is going to need some surgery, so he's probably going to be gone for an extended period of time. Latimer will probably be involved in the tapings, but more as the valet, if you will, for Camille. He's not going to be able to be in the ring. So the fact that they had the match that they had, kind of, for me, I think you got to tip your hat to Strictly Business. They were able to put something together while injured. And that's the thing. There's not very many sports where you expect an injured athlete to go out there and perform, but they did. They went out there and did the best that they could.
Yeah, that's just, it looks like with the injury and everything that kind of put an end to Strictly Business, and we can talk more about that as it comes up. And it's probably necessary at this time. I do think it's never really been, if they're not going to be a tag team, then there's not really a purpose to it anymore. And so, it had its time, it did its thing, and we'll always have the memories.
Well,
I didn't say good ones. I just said memories. Right.
Well, and one thing to keep in mind too is when it comes to Strictly Business, it was a collective of wrestlers who were bent on gaining championships. Now, with all due respect to Tom Latimer, he hasn't been in a position to be a champion in a very long time. He unfortunately, during the national title tournament that they had to, re-crown a new national champion after Adonis forfeited, he lost. And he never once pursued the television title. And as Adonis was
well, he had one shot, went to the draw.
With Pope, yeah.
He went to a 10-minute draw. One of these days, they're going to figure out what the rules on the pay-per-view are going to be for the TV title. And then he talked like he was going to be a challenger for it, and at the first taping, and never again.
Yeah. And that's and especially as soon as Aldis lost the belt, they very much felt like they were a rudderless ship. Like, Adonis wasn't defending the title. Latimer had no direction. Camille was still your women's champion, but it still just didn't have a whole lot of oomph behind it once they lost Aldis. Now, if they would have jumped with Cardona, like Team Cardona, then that storyline wise would have made a lot of sense because, hey, we come with the 10 pounds of gold. Whoever the world champion is, we got their back. At least that would have made some sense, but that's not even what happened.
No, and I don't know. It really kind of wore through. like I said, Latimer is going to kind of be in the valet role for Camille until he gets healed up, and then hopefully after he gets healed up, he can make some kind of run. Adonis needs to take this opportunity to, get a surgery, heal, be out, whatever the 6 to 12 weeks it takes to heal. And, if he comes back, shave his head and get a beer gut and kind of change who he is. I don't. NWA did not do him any favors with the way they booked him.
No, and that's, when you look at it, right? When you look at the NWA, the talent is only able to do what the talent is given to work with, right? So maybe Adonis didn't have the best presence while he was there, but it's not like they put him in a position where he looked super powerful or that he looked very intimidating. His national title matches, he wrestled against Judeus. He wrestled against James Storm. Remember, James Storm made him look bad.
Right.
He never really had that, a super successful run as champion because he really didn't have that many opponents. I feel like the way they booked Chris Adonis as national champion is very akin to how they booked Trevor Murdoch as the world's champion. Yeah, you're the champion and it means something, but we're not going to do anything for you. You just have to kind of sit here and wait until the next guy takes the belt.
Yeah. It's just weird that they didn't push him in any way as champion.
He had no chief rival. Jay the God was the man who lost to him in the finals of that national title skirmish, whatever you want to call it. And he never even got a shot at the belt. Like, they never had a rematch. Tom Latimer never
said you didn't want one.
What's that?
You said you didn't want one. Every time I said they should do something with Jay the Guy, he already lost. You sound like all those new wrestling fans.
No, my point is what I want is insignificant. We know that. What I'm saying is booking logically, they didn't do anything with Adonis. They never gave him, you need to have a rival in pro wrestling. I don't think you can succeed. I don't think you can cement your legacy if you don't have someone that is your rival. Hulk Hogan had several rivals. Ric Flair had several rivals. Sting had several rivals. The Rock, Triple H. We can go on and on with this, right? The Midnight Express, the Rock and Roll Express, the Legion of Doom and the Russians, the Legion of Doom and the Steiner brothers in WWE. You go anywhere, any which way you want. Chris Adonis sat there idle in the NWA without a rival, without a feud, without anything. They didn't do anything with him. He started off with Trevor Murdoch, but as soon as Trevor Murdoch lost the national title to Adonis, Adonis was just doing what he did. Like, he was just there. He just existed. And
he never challenged for the world title.
No. And even when Aldis even kind of made that proclamation leading up to the 73rd anniversary that at any chance, anytime he wanted, Chris Adonis could just fill out the paperwork and he would be granted a national title match. He never did it. So you had a guy who had all this opportunity and it sat there. And again, I'm not blaming the wrestler. This is storyline. This is booking. But they didn't do anything with him.
Right. And NWA Gold reminds us they had Adonis give up the title so he could be in that battle royal. And so, he had barely won the title, gave the title up, and then they put it back on him, and then they did nothing with it from that point forward.
He was.
I would have thought once Murdoch won the title, he would have been. Well, I beat him for that national champion. I ought to, I want to face him for the world championship, especially since all this turned face and.
Well, and we were screaming for someone to step up to challenge Trevor Murdoch within the NWA. You got Trevor Murdoch out there fighting Attila Khan. You got Trevor Murdoch out there fighting Gangrel. And his first opponent within the NWA confines was an outsider, Mike Knox. It wasn't even an NWA guy. They could have done that with Adonis. They could have done everything exactly the same, and it could have been Adonis. It could have been Adonis joining with Matt Cardona and leaving Mike Knox out. There's so many ways they could have done this that would have made sense, and they didn't do any of it. Now, I know we're kind of beating a dead horse here because I honestly believe that something happened at Crockett Cup. Something happened, and I think there's a shakeup. I think maybe Billy's looking at things a little bit differently. Maybe he's got some people speaking to him differently, because I felt like at Crockett Cup they really set up a lot of things that are going to impact Power USA and everything else going forward. Do you want to jump to that, or what would you like to talk about next, DK?
Really, there's not just a whole lot special going on in the world of wrestling right now. Some big events coming up, I guess, in a week or so, but yeah, who cares about that?
I heard you have to order it online. You can watch it on the internet.
Yeah,
one of those streaming sites. I don't know. You can order it online.
I'll think about that.
Real quick, do you remember when pay-per-view on the internet, like streaming sites like Click Wrestle and things like that, those were all considered like, yeah, all of them were considered like these aren't, you can't get real pay-per-view. And now everybody's doing streaming stuff online. There's hardly any pay-per-view anymore.
And remember that back then, if you're doing those IPPV internet pay-per-views,
yeah,
that most of them were using, like the same webcam that, Joe Bob had on his computer. And I can remember watching them as they would walk around with their little
tablet?
webcam camera.
Yeah.
Or, with the cord all the way back to some laptop they were on.
We went out here in Southern California. There was a promotion called UPW, and UPW basically was founded like in the late 90s, like 99. And it basically Rick Bassman, the guy who discovered Steve Borden and James Hellwig, Sting and Warrior, had a niche for finding undiscovered talent. And so he started this wrestling promotion, and it was, the same place where Samoa Joe got big, John Cena, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian. A lot of those guys came from that spot, the Cubanitos, aka Rocky Romero, Ricky Reyes. And they before
that
YouTube,
that was on 60 Minutes.
It might have been. But they had such a rabid following that they started putting their shows online for free. Now, this was before YouTube. So, like, we're talking dial-up internet, that slow lag, everything was super pixelated, but at least you could hear what was going on. You could hear what was happening, but forget about seeing it unless you're on a high-speed internet.
And most of them were dark, and you watch two silhouettes that kind of look like what was it, Minecraft? That's the
yeah.
squares. Yeah. It was something like that. I think we're showing our age. All the people have gone quiet in the chat. They're going, "What the blank are those guys old men talking about?"
Not only did they go blank in the chat, they went blank on the internet too. Everyone just turned off the channel. Let's try to bring him back. Let's try to bring him back. Let's talk a little Crockett Cup. Now, we had made some predictions, and I told you that I own it. When I'm wrong, I will say I'm wrong, and when I'm right, I say I'm right. Of our predictions, Jaden only had 2 matches right. I had 4 matches right. But the leader in the clubhouse, the man who called the most correct predictions, is our guy DK. Because Mr. Mercer predicted that Hex would win their titles, which they did, or retain the titles. Mr. DK also said that Tyrus would still be television champion. He was wrong about Carino walking out with the junior heavyweight title, but he was right about Jax Dane leaving with the national title.
We were all right on that one because he lost and then won.
I mean, yes, but I'm saying he walked out with the belt, so he walked out with the belt, so he walked out with the belt. I give you that one. You and I were both right about Camille. And of course, we all agree that Cardona wasn't going to lose the title, which I got to tell you, man, the way that they were setting that up there live, I was feeling very uncertain about that prediction because, as soon as I saw VSK and Mike Knox come out, I thought, well, here comes Doug Williams and here comes Harry Smith, and now all bets are off because something's going to happen here. And I wasn't really predicting a Chelsea Green interference. I certainly had no idea Mickey would be there, and that caught everyone by surprise. And that was a good one. That was a good one to a good way to have that match, keeping everyone kind of strong, and really kept keeping Jarrett mostly honest in that match too.
Mostly. He did a couple of questionable things, but
let's. Or I know we're kind of jumping around, but let's just finish up about Jarrett, and then we'll go through the card. When you look at what Jarrett did, he was trying to help the NWA. His motive was to keep the match clean. And he didn't really care if it got rough, and he wasn't really. The only time he was siding with Aldis over Cardona is when Cardona was trying to get out of there, when Cardona was trying to break the rules or to get disqualified.
Well, the big one I remember was kind of, you've seen this in the past, but like the heel will reach out and grab the rope and they'll barely have it, and the ref will kick the rope and then they have to let go, which, is always kind of a pop thing, but you never know why they do it. It's like, ever. But it was like he reached out and grabbed it, and Jarrett kicked the rope, and he kept the hole, and he kicked it again. He kept the hole, and he was kicking it, and it was like all this just let go of his own accord, which was a little bit on the weird side. But it was you're kind of going, okay, that's a little blatant there.
Yeah. NWA Gold asked, I just want to put it up on the screen, how was the crowd energy in that title match in person, JC? The crowd seemed a little dead from the view from my living room. It kind of went back and forth. When the match spilled out into the audience, you basically lost the majority of the fans sitting ringside because none of us wanted to get up and chase the action as it kind of spilled behind us, and you couldn't really see what was going on. But I would say when they were in the ring, it was pretty hot. The audience was definitely pro Jeff Jarrett, pro Nick Aldis. You had Cardona had a few fans there, but it was mostly an NWA crowd. So I really felt like they were more in line with Aldis, and it was more definitely the audience was more geared towards the baby faces than the heels that night for sure. But as far as the energy goes, I felt like the energy was there when it mattered. When the match was outside, like I said, no, they didn't care. But as soon as it got back into the ring, I felt like they were back on board.
Well, I think in the early steps, it kind of took them a while to warm up to some of it, especially when Cardona tried to just walk out. But let's go back to.
It was real quick. It was also weird because there was such lulls in the show where, like, they had that. There was the Jack Stane versus Anthony Mayweather. That was very, very hot, and the crowd obviously was supporting Mayweather, so that kind of drained a lot out of them. And then they went back and they had the women's match again. The fans were all over that as well. Then they did Tyrus and Rodney Mack, and that kind of calmed the show down a little bit. So they did try to.
That was the intermission break.
Yeah,
you could go get your popcorn because they didn't do an intermission. And,
yeah, they definitely were trying to, pace the show. Anyways, like my daughter asked me, well, why didn't they start off with a TV match first and just let everything build up? I said, because at the end of the night, no one would have been able to keep up to that level. You have to take it down a little bit and then bring it back up. It has to be like a constant moving, like a what are those earthquake detectors? The never mind.
Seismograph?
Yeah, sure, okay. Willie yeah, Willie Bowen says, please don't let Jabba the Hutt wrestle for the World's Heavyweight Championship. It's bad enough he got the TV title. I think they're doing a smart thing. I think they're doing a smart thing with the whole body slam thing because that just means he's not going to defend the title anytime soon. No one's going to slam that guy.
Yeah, I really want to talk about that when we get to Power. But let's look at night one quickly since it was not the best night.
Okay. So we start off with the pre-show, and you get the Briscoes for free, and I thought that was brilliant on behalf of the NWA because I really felt like if you were on the fence about ordering it and you saw the Briscoes on that opening show, like that's enough reason to order it.
They actually did a lot, and I was surprised because most buy-ins or pre-shows or whatever, and even in the NWA's past, they're 40% talk, 20% action.
Yeah.
And, the not hot feuds or titles or what they put in there. And so with the way they started off, you kind of felt like it was, that's what you were going to get. That, you get that, I can't remember what the first match was on the first night, but it was some singles match. And, then you go, okay, you'll get that and you'll get the 4-way and then it'll be done. And it was like, oh, hell no. They're putting some stuff on here.
Yeah, they really were efforting to make it. So like on the first match, you had Jake Dumas, the magician. He was taking on Captain Yuma, and I think I recanted this story on the pre-party, but we'll also say it here. Yuma was my daughter's favorite wrestler back in the early days of Rock Nest Monsters. Her first show was at the Galaxy Theater in Orange, California, and it was Santa Ana, California, and it was the premiere TV taping for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And the Rock Nest Monsters were fighting Los Luchas and I think Natural Selection, Brian Cage and LA Knight. And she instantly just became enamored with Yuma, so much so that Yuma sent us a shirt, and she was real excited to have that shirt. And so when she saw that Yuma was on the card, I didn't tell her he was going to be there. She popped because it was a big deal for her. But then when Yuma turned around and saw two Californians out there in Nashville cheering for him, he kind of popped. So it's kind of funny that afterwards I talked to him after the show, and he was like, I can't believe you guys were here. And it's kind of funny. Like, you forget these are real people too. And he's like, it was so crazy to see you and your daughter here. And I said, yeah, it's her first show out of state, but it was a fun time. All right. Sorry.
That's a good story. So, but yeah, we know how that went. And what's the fatal 4-way next?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the matches right now. So we had Jake Dumas versus Captain Yuma. Obviously, Dumas goes over. Plunkett puts Yuma down with a sock. The next match is the 4-way. The Bad News Boys, also known as the Tate Twins, and that's what I call them. That's what the mamas call them. That's what I'm gonna call them. They took on the Heat Seekers, the Rip City Shooters, and of course, Violence is Forever.
Never talk about them.
Never talk about Violence is Forever?
No, the very definition of mud show indie.
Yeah, I wasn't. It's funny because you messaged me that, and as soon as, like, right before you said that, also said to my daughter, "Man, do you look how professional everyone looks except for those two guys?" And my daughter's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, look, the guy. I mean, look, I don't want to sound. I don't have the best body in the world either, right? But I'm also not trying to wrestle, and I'm not out there in the ring. But when a guy's more flabbier than me, it's like, go to the gym and start toning your muscles. You don't have to have a 6-pack, but flabby doesn't look good. Flabby looks like mud indie shows. What is it? Say it again.
Outlaw mud shows.
Outlaw mud shows.
Indie outlaw mud show. Yes.
I just thought that, like, everyone else looked like pretty professional. You look at the Heat Seekers. I mean, Matt Sigmund looks great, man. He's super in shape. The other guys, the Tate Twins, looked great. Of course, they have that more, like a acrobat type look to them. They're thin, they're muscular, but they're not super thick because they fly around the ring. And then the Rip City shooters looked really good too. Like, I would love to see those guys stick around too. Violence is Forever. I just felt like they did not have that look that you were hoping for, and I felt really bad.
I didn't feel bad. I just don't ever want to see them again.
Yeah. So, what did you think of the match, though?
I don't like four ways, and this didn't do anything to make me go, "Oh, this was a great exception." It was okay for what it was. I think the Tate Twins, because I'm not going to call them that other stupid name. I think the Tate Twins probably went over because they're slightly better known from being in ROH. I don't know. Not their biggest fans. Are pretty small, and it's one of those things where I really have to stretch my disbelief to think that they're going to go over. So even when they were 6-man champions in ROH with Dalton Castle, it was basically Dalton Castle was the 6-man champions. The boys would just come in long enough and get beat up so he could rest and win the match. It wasn't so much, they contributed just a great deal. So, yeah, I wanted the Heat Seekers to win. They didn't. Okay, next.
Have you heard if they, I don't have spoilers. I haven't checked the spoilers. Have they been around for the other nights, or are they still in Nashville, or were they still a part of the show? Does anyone know?
I have not heard anything. So any of you people out there who went, let us know if they stuck around. So I don't see anybody right now that's in the chat that way, but
next up we have.
I want to say no.
Yeah.
Just because I've heard some of the people who stuck around, and they have not been brought up. So,
well, and again, I know that things work kind of weird for the NWA because a lot of storylines and stuff are already kind of written out pretty far in advance. And so when they bring in new faces, sometimes it's here's a sample. We'll bring you back on the next show and see if we can work you into it. And so hopefully a lot of because like the Heat Seekers and to be honest, going back to the tag teams that were involved, the Heat Seekers, the Tate Twins, the Rip City Shooters, and even the Now, I felt like all of those teams could certainly work in the NWA. And it's not like it's worse than some of the teams they have now. But getting back to it, the next match was the Them Boys versus the Now, and I was really impressed by those guys. What did you think of that match?
I found it funny in the sense that, what I thought was going to happen basically did happen. The Briscoes did basically go out, dominate them. They got a little bit of offense in, and then they lost. And I kind of knew that was going to be the case. But if you'd asked me beforehand, I would have thought that Now was probably going to be closer to Violence is Forever as far as look or action. And so I was pleasantly surprised to see that, they looked like a tag team. They were in shape. They had proper gear. They were, they looked good. Just as people, they looked well in the match as far as being able to work it. They didn't stumble around or cause any problem. But yeah, it's one of those things. I wouldn't have any issues if they stuck around and, started to be built up. I really wouldn't have any problem with the Rip City Shooters. I have a feeling that's it for the Heat Seekers, I feel. And I don't care for the Tate Twins either, so it doesn't matter if they stick around to me. But, I mean, I think we saw between us at least two teams that you could bring in and kind of do some 50-50 booking with and see, the fans catch on to them. They could be like the tag team Mims.
The tag team Mims.
Where, I mean, well, you basically know that if Mims takes on anybody of any name value, he's not going to win. But he's going to put in a good effort, a good show, and, they'll put him in occasionally with enhancement talent, and that'll work.
Okay, I see that. I see what you're saying. So that's into the pre-show. That takes us into Crockett Cup, and the Briscoes came out there, and they, man, that Nashville audience was very much behind the Briscoes. So that brings us into the opening round. We got Hawks Ari versus the End, Luke Hawk, PJ Hawk versus Odinson Paro. This match was not my favorite match of the night, but certainly, the End came out there looking like the End. Paro still might be the weakest link in that in the four people that were involved in that match. I think Hawk Ari was the right decision to move forward. Luke and PJ seem to work very, very well together. PJ just feels like he's a breakout star in the making. Every time we see him out there, he just looks phenomenal. What were your thoughts on this one?
Well, starting with PJ, one of the things that happens when they do record like 3-4 months at a time, and then you kind of get a fresh look at them at the next pay-per-view or whatever, you can really see sometimes some of the development changes. I mean, let's be honest, PJ's an excellent talent, but his look was very boyish, and his body wasn't exactly pleasant.
Okay.
But you could tell when he came in that the guy's been working out. His, chest had a little bit of definition to it. He didn't seem quite as soft in the center. And his arms, you could see some bulk and definition. You could see he's starting to mature. And so this was really I think a coming out party for him, as far as, okay, now you can start pushing him as a mid-card baby face. And he can team with his dad some, but he doesn't necessarily need to be just stuck in a tag team with his dad. So as for the match itself, of course, it won't be an NWA tag team thing. There's not tension and drama in one of the teams. So Velvet was, oh, by the way, going back to the pre-show, wasn't it so nice to have a commentary team of two people that paid attention to the action in the ring and called it and explained it and didn't yell or shout or loud whisper or repeat no all the time or whatever. I mean, wasn't it nice to have, like a wrestling commentary team, do commentary?
Yes.
A play-by-play and a color guy that, knows what he's talking about. That was so nice. But instead, once the main thing started, we got to listen about how the End weren't traveling together, weren't working out together, weren't training together, weren't eating together. I don't know, maybe Paro's husband was jealous. Whatever, there was a problem between them, so that the End, I guess, could have some meeting when it looked like they were going to fight, but then attacked.
Yeah,
Hawk Ari. It wasn't a terrible match, but it wasn't a good match. I was glad Hawks won, and didn't like the injury angle at the end. And it sounds like, and I don't know, people out there, again, who maybe were at the show can tell us more, but it sounds like he got legit injured. He legitimately had his bell ring.
Well, so I got to hang out at the hotel lobby where a lot of the wrestlers were at after the show. And although he was in good spirits, I was told by more than one person that he legitimately had a concussion, that initially, I guess the plan was for something else to happen, but he did legitimately have that concussion. And we know with the NWA, they take the concussion protocols pretty serious. They kept Pope off the TV for almost the entire tapings back in December, which really impacted the Pope's, the Pope's being on TV, I guess. And so I really feel like, nobody wants to sit those shows out because they're so important. If you miss one show, you miss like 4 weeks of TV. So I do feel like, unfortunately, for Luke, he won't be on this season of Power very much, but you will have PJ, and hopefully that puts him in a different path. We can always revisit Hawkari as a tag team, but Homicide is going to need some competition, and PJ Hawk is one of those guys I think that would fit the bill very, very well.
You know who I was surprised by that wasn't there?
Who?
Kerry Morton.
Yeah,
because they kind of did that build up in USA, and although they drug his dad into it, boo. I kind of thought that he was going to be one of the younger guys that they brought in and pushed. So I was a little surprised that he wasn't there at all on either night. But anyway, that's chasing a rabbit. What was the next match?
Then the next match we had was the Cardonas, Knox and VSK versus Mims and the Pope. Now, this was the match that I predicted that you would see chaos. Like, I thought this was the match that would have to get thrown out, that would cause a disqualification because, from how they booked Pope at the last Power that he was at, he did say, hey, this match isn't over when I pin him. It's over when he's done. And that's not the words of somebody who's looking to win a tag team tournament, advance to the finals. That's coming from a guy who's looking to pay some receipts. So when the match itself was a little bit less than that, it kind of was disappointing. Now, I'm not saying that the Mims and Pope looked bad. I'm not even saying Mike Knox and VSK looked bad. I just kind of felt like this match had the same steam that the first Aldis and Latimer had at Hard Times too. Like, it should have been more violent. It should have been a lot more cantankerous. Like, they should have been trying to hurt each other. It should have been like, I don't want the pinfall. I want that man's blood. And that's, I don't feel like we got that. So I was a little disappointed, and maybe I overbooked that match in my head, but I thought like VSK didn't need to go over. Mike Knox didn't need to go over. Pope needed that. Mims needed that. And if they weren't going to get the win, or if they wasn't going to end in disqualification, I think the wrong team got the win.
I think here was my look in. I think this is where, when all three of us were making predictions, we kind of got lost in the minutia. If you thought about it, and you thought the Cardonas are going to, or Matt Cardona is going to stick around. We all predicted him to retain the title. And so if he's going to stick around, his group's going to have to look somewhat plausible. Because, we already got Idol Sports Management, where they, don't win much. And so this was one of those, well, of course they're going to make it into the semifinals and, not lose until they face the Briscoes. If you take the emotion out and look at it in a how are you going to book this tournament of who's who. And by the way, one thing I did have an issue with the tournament is they had a lot of heel versus heel and face versus face. And you saw that in this night. I don't know if you would experienced it there in the live crowd, but on TV sometimes it came across like, yeah, we don't know who to cheer for, so we're just going to kind of sit here.
I mean, that's kind of what happened.
And so then Jaden showed up, but anyway, yeah, looking back on it, not picking the Cardonas to win was a stupid move. I think.
Sure.
I think for me, I won't speak for you guys, but I think for me, since although I was predicting Matt to retain the title, I really wasn't like convinced he was going to retain the title. And so it was like, if he's not sticking around, because my thing is, if he lost the title, he wouldn't stick around. It would be like, thanks for coming in, bye. I think my thought was everybody will go out early.
Yeah.
The Cardonas will go out early, Chelsea will lose, and Matt will lose, and they'll be gone. And so I think that manifested for me in the Cardonas figuring, they'll just go out in the first round. You have any thoughts on?
Hey, Jaden.
Hey, what's up?
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm waiting to hear your thoughts on the Cardonas.
Well, okay, so the Cardonas, look, those guys, much to what DKM just said, if the assumption is that they're going to be there a while, then yes, they can't look like punks, right? They can't go out there and just look like jabrones. But they've not done a single thing together in the NWA at all. Like, this is the first time we've seen VSK and Mike Knox as a tag team. It's the first time we've seen VSK in the ring in an actual match. So I had very low expectations for them. I get that we didn't see the Pope and Mims in a match before, but the Mims has kind of been like the heart of that NWA. Like, he's the kid that's been there since day one, and I feel like he's like the ambassador for the NWA in such a way. Like, he kind of represents the everyman. He started from the bottom and he's working his way to the top. And you put him in the ring with the Pope, who, a year ago I thought was going to be the next world champion. So I was disappointed that not only did they lose, but I honestly felt like the way that this match should have been built, it should have been a disqualification. I think that would have made more sense for everybody. And a DQ doesn't make VSK and Mike Knox look bad. It just means that match got out of control. Remember, the Briscoes were eliminated from the Crockett Cup 3 years ago when they were disqualified, and a double disqualification. So,
it wasn't double. It was just them.
What was that?
It wasn't a double. It was just them.
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough.
And I think our big issue with the match itself was it didn't live up to the hype we set in our own minds for it, because, like you said, we were kind of expecting a big dirty brawl, and we really didn't get that. And then we got let's smash Pope's head into the thing and then pin Mims, and you were just kind of left going, okay, yeah, that's not what I was expecting.
Yeah. So, yeah, and like I said, it is what it is. And it made sense for the booking later in the show, but that at the moment, I scratched my head and didn't understand that one. Let's not keep on this one for too much longer. Let's go to the Dirty Sexy Boys taking on Aaron Stevens and the Blue Meanie. What?
Let's not talk about that one.
You sure? All right, moving on.
Let me ask you this question, because you were there.
Yeah.
Did anyone give a shit that the Blue Meanie was there?
Okay. There were a few people there that were like, "Oh, it's the Blue Meanie. Oh, the Scott Hall tribute, yeah." But it wasn't enough, I think, for them to warrant bringing him in. Like, think of it this way. I know for a fact that Jay Spade was sitting there in the locker room not doing anything. He could have been the replacement.
They could have brought back Magic Jake Dumas from the first match.
He could have been.
That would have been a better replacement.
Hey, they could have done almost anything, and it would have been better. You know, my pal Jeremiah Plunkett did not have a match at the pay-per-view. Put him in there. Anything would have made more sense than paying a guy who hasn't been relevant in 22 years to come out there.
Was never relevant in that area.
Yeah, who was never relevant in Nashville. Have him come out and, I'm the bad guy. No, you're not. You're a pudgy dude with blue hair that has all the charisma of a turtle. I don't. That
looks like an old broken down wrestler.
Worse, because remember when he lost all the weight and he looked pretty good.
Yeah, and now it's all back in the stomach.
It's all there.
Ugh.
And young Rider points out that Kratos was booked for New Japan. Yes, and the sad thing is basically whoever got to Kratos first was the one who was going to get him for the show. And I guess either the NWA office thought that he was booked or waited to the last minute to book him. But that's to me, that's just kind of bad storytelling. Now, I don't know what's going to happen down the road. I don't know if we're going to see Kratos return. I don't know if Stevens the next night kind of made it sound like he wanted to be his own man. But that might be officially the end of the Kratos and Stevens experiment.
Hope so. One of the things that I know we talked about offline, and I don't remember if we brought it up last week or not, is that some of these people, it's time for them to disappear for a while. It's time to move on. I can't miss you if you don't go away.
Sure.
And I think that's not what I meant to do. So I don't know. Jaden, you have any 2 cents to throw in about the idea that sometimes you got to cycle people out for a while?
Oh, no, I fully agree. You need to, it's a constant rotation. Otherwise, you get sick of everybody and you need fresh blood. And who knows, maybe Kratos, maybe he originally took the NWA booking and then took the New Japan booking because it was a better opportunity or a bigger opportunity. What kind of asshole wrestlers would do that?
Well, I understand that there are some assholes out there that do shit like that. And
yeah. Somebody should throw a brick at him.
I certainly think so.
Bricks.
And,
those boys need the bricks thrown at them.
And, and if there was a champion that did that, the first thing I'd do is have them send their belt to me in Texas. And so you got to.
I love inside jokes. I hope to be a part of one someday.
One day.
We can hope.
So what was next? Was there another match?
Let's get through this because this doesn't need to be an entire collection of recapping. But Gold Rush, you had Clearwater, Marche Rocket with Black G's and Tyrus. No Austin Idol, by the way. And a much more serious tone from Gold Rush out there. They defeat Strictly Business, Chris Adonis and Tom Latimer. Now, we do know now that both men were injured, and that played a role into it. And I could have swore when Adonis had that master lock on Clearwater that was it. And I thought I still at that point had Strictly Business in the finals. So I was kind of shocked when that wasn't it. And the fact that they went on to win the match, I think real testament to the booking of not the booking, I should say, but the talent of Clearwater and Marche. I really felt like they gelled a lot better as a tag team. I feel like they grew up some on Saturday night.
I think I called that, didn't I? Didn't I call that?
Yeah, I think you called that one. I think that was your upset.
That was my upset, and I think I called that one. And I'm glad I'm not upset I got it right. I guess they're breaking up Strictly Business again. Maybe they're going to be caught out of business.
Yeah, I think it's no business like show business because Strictly Business is donezo.
Well, what was the next match, Jay?
So then the next match, of course, was the Commonwealth Connection, Williams and Smith versus the Ill-Begotten. Now, good Lord, if you haven't seen Harry Smith live, the dude is a tank. Like, he is built like a brick house, with no apologies to Camille. Harry Smith is just a phenomenal athlete. Doug Williams looks incredible as well. And Doug Williams is, I'm not going to say he's old, but he's not young either.
He's 50. He's old.
He looks great for 50, and we should all be so fortunate to look that way when we're 50.
Yeah, I'm 54, and I don't look that way.
No. And they together worked very, very well. They called them the Commonwealth Connection, not the British Invasion, not the British Bulldogs, the Commonwealth Connection. I dug it. I dug the name. They came out there, handled business. They actually let the Ill-Begotten get some offense in, which surprised me because I think I would have just squashed those guys. Taylor and Freeman, they looked okay in that match, but obviously this was all about the Commonwealth Connection. And, I was happy with that match. I thought they looked really good, really, really good.
Yeah, they look good. Ill-Begotten shouldn't have been in the tournament. What was the next match?
The next match we had was La Rebellion versus the Tate Twins. Now, I'm still a fan of the Tate Twins. I know you're not, DK, and that's okay. I thought this match was pretty good, with the exception of a few botches, and it hurt me to see it. I saw one of the Tates, and I'm sorry, I can't tell you which one's which. One of them got stuck on the rope when he was trying to do the leap off of the top rope.
It was the uglier one.
Say that again.
It was the uglier one that got caught.
There was little things here and there that kind of hurt the match, but all in all, I thought it was a good match. And La Rebellion, they needed that match to look good. They looked good coming out there with the face paint and all that good stuff. They looked pretty solid to me.
You brought back a repressed memory.
Okay.
We were talking about the play-in with the four-way, and talk about botches. The finish was botched horribly.
Yeah.
For those that didn't see it, Tate Twin 1, as opposed to Tate Twin 2, went for an Oklahoma roll by the ropes and didn't really get him rolled and didn't really get him over. And they just, whoever he pinned basically had to lay on his back and wait for the Tate Twin to cover him and hook his leg so he could get the pinfall. It was horrible. So anyway, they lost to the champions, who, by the way, had two belts because David Crockett brought.
Well, you froze, DK. You froze. And we lost DK. Now we got DK. Now we lost DK. Stand by.
For a second there, we got a couple Jadens. Oh my God, I'm a twin.
There you are, DK.
I was just saying that David Crockett had brought, the other set of tag team belts. So for the first night, the champions had both sets of belts.
I get what they were going for. I don't think that was necessary, but it was kind of cool to see him.
It was cool to see him, and they were taking pictures in the back. I don't think that they needed to bring him out every time they came out.
No, I feel like it might have confused the audience too. Like, why do they have two sets of titles?
Yeah.
Our pal Firefly said, "I don't like the Tate Twins outfits. Reminded me of High Energy, which was both Coco and Owen's lowest point." That's fair, Firefly.
Talk about another thing I suppressed. Thanks a lot, Firefly.
And then Young Rider says La Rebellion's costume was amazing. It certainly had a look to it, and it was not their typical look, but I thought it was pretty. What's funny is I was sitting in the hotel lobby watching these guys walk in, where Beastia's face was still black and green, and Mecha the Wolf's face was mostly off, but not completely. And you're just looking at these guys like, what are the other people in this hotel lobby walking by? It's only 11:30 at night. It's Nashville. It's not like it's a dead city. People are walking by, and there's this room filled with wrestlers and dudes with face paint and guys that look like Harry Smith and Chris Adonis walking by. It was just an anomaly, just weird stuff. And Yeah, it's funny. Mecha Wolf came up to me and said, "Oh, hey man, what's going on?" And I didn't know he knew who I was, but I was wearing the Alliance T-shirt, and he recognized that I had been at a lot of the Tijuana shows. Thought I lived in San Diego to see the Crash, and he said that he appreciated what we do, but I think that he just means he likes that we share pictures of what they do. But moving on. You know who I did get to talk to a lot, probably about an hour or so, is Jeremiah Plunkett. And I want to have that guy on very, very soon. He is a fun dude. He aged me like 40 years and said, I've been watching your podcast since I was a kid. And I sat there and looked at him like, you son of a bitch. How old
do
are
you
you?
think I am? Hey, let's move on to the next match because it has the team that Jay said was going to win it all.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for rubbing that in. Next up, we get the Cardonas versus the Fixers. I'm going to blame it on the tight singlets. It wasn't a good look for either Bradley or Legursky. But the Cardonas went over. I don't have anything more I want to add to that.
I'm blaming it on the cereal. When I saw their backstage bit, I said, "Oh, great, we got Luke and Bush, the bushwhackers, not Luke and Butch, the sheep herders." So when I saw them there and talking about the cereal and Sting and Muda, it's like, oh shit. They're taking this comedy. They're taking this comedy thing a little too far. So I knew then that Jay was as wrong could be, even for Jay.
And I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong. I'm okay with that. But I do know that those guys got over with the crowd. You can say what you want. You don't have to like them.
I think they're going to become faces.
Oh, for sure. 100%. I think by the end of the year, we're going to be talking about the Fixers being the face tag team. And probably not with Colby unless Colby decides to go babyface with them.
You know, I'm actually glad that the fans are getting behind them because after the cluster fudge of getting behind the question mark and elevating that no talent, stupid, moronic gimmick, the Fixers at least are really, really talented and can wrestle and have some good personality. So for a change, the fans got this one right.
Well, it was the Nashville fans and not the Atlanta fans, so
that helps. So who else wrestled?
Then next up, we get the second round, and that would be the second round. No, I guess these are all second round. Sorry, and that's La Rebellion versus PJ Hawk. Now, a lot of people were surprised that Hawk came out there alone, but the way I saw it was this: Hawk already would have lost either way. I think, my own opinion. I think it was better for PJ to go out there and take a beating and look really, really good in that match, being 1 versus 2, being 1 versus the tag team champions. You weren't expected to win, but you put up a good fight, and for that, you earn respect. Jaden, what do you think about
that? He kicked out of their finisher the first time.
Yeah. Jaden, what do you think of when you have a tag team taking on a singles wrestler? You know they're going to lose, but what do you think of when that guy is able to look good in that match? Does that help elevate?
Not against the tag team champions. Maybe the first 5 minutes, maybe, but after that, it should definitely be all tag team champions. I know by the rules of the tournament there are no substitutions, so that made perfect sense. I would have rather seen Hawkari versus La Rebellion personally, but I know with the concussion, stuff like that happens. But I think he had too much, and I think it made the tag team champions look weak.
Oh, okay.
I think, the theme that they talked about either later that night or the next night, I don't remember which one, was that basically La Rebellion had overlooked both the Tate Twins and PJ Hawk and not taking them lightly, not taking them seriously, and therefore both performed better than they should have against the tag team champions. I don't know that's the way I'd want to present my tag team champions, but I'm also questioning how much longer they're going to hold the title. So Who did the Briscoes take on, Jay?
Then the Briscoes, they came in and took on the Dirty Sexy Boys. Now, I felt like this match, I think we agreed early on that this was initially you wanted Aaron's and Stevens and Kratos. And, of course, Kratos wasn't there. So I think you much preferred to see these guys in the ring than the Blue Meanie and Stevens. But this match was very fast-paced. And I don't know that Stevens and Kratos would have been able to keep up with them. I think even Jaden said that on the last podcast that he kind of felt like maybe that these guys would be the Briscoes would be too much for a regular tag team. You need someone who can finesse with them, and I felt like they kept up with them, but it was still all Briscoes all night. Not once did I think that they were in peril of losing.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, it was a good match for what it was. It wasn't anything that was going to be earth-shattering. And, I found it interesting that they ended the night with this particular match, but it actually turned out to be a better match than I anticipated when the Commonwealth Connection took on Gold Rush.
Yeah. What did you think of it, Jaden? What did you think of the Dirty Sexy Boys in that fast-paced environment with the Briscoes? I'm going to say this real quick. I didn't realize how fast the Briscoes were when they work. I mean, they're all over the place, and they're like watching lightning. They just everywhere. What did you think, Jaden?
I've always said I like the Briscoes. I'm a big fan of theirs. I remember when they were little kids, 16 and 18 years old, just starting in the business, and they might have been younger than that, but they've always had something, and they are true to their own personality. They're true to their gimmick. They're true. That's them in real life. Not even really turned up. I think that's just really them. The formerly known as Fandango has always been a good tag team wrestler, even if sometimes he does the goofy stuff he's had to do in the WWE. JTG has always been a good tag team wrestler. They know about tag team wrestling. So I thought the match was perfect. Plus, it gave, even though they're not the former champions, it gave, in my opinion, the Briscoes more credibility to beat them because they're two former WWE stars. And you don't often see the Briscoes wrestle against former WWE wrestlers because they're usually against wrestlers from Ring of Honor. The only exception I can think of is Haas and Benjamin. So I think that was a great way to really showcase them to people who may not know how good the Briscoes are. It's not only having a good match with them, but showing them beating two guys from the WWE.
So I guess that'll take us to the next match, which is sorry, I had my other window open. The Commonwealth Connection, Williams and Smith versus Gold Rush, Marche and Clearwater. This is what finished out night number one. And I will, again, Gold Rush went out there, and you can't take away, look, they were outmatched by a much better tag team. But Clearwater and Marche looked pretty good in that match, and you have to give the devil their due. They didn't come out there and I mean, yes, they did the whole rope thing, but it wasn't like they weren't being jokes. And Tyrus was kind of their mouthpiece for the night, and he like more than once said, like, they're going to take this serious. They're going to really, go out there and try, and they did. And for what they were able to accomplish in the match, I was very happy by the match, but I just didn't think that they were very good against, obviously, the Commonwealth Connection.
No, it was a better match than I would have, if you'd said, okay, here's the matchup that we're going to have here. I probably would have just hung my head and cried. And, it was a better matchup than I in any way, shape, or form would have thought. Wasn't great. I don't know that there was any match on the show that I would have called great or even really good.
Okay.
So there were some disappointing ones, and there were some that were, a little pitch dog. And there were some that go, okay, yeah, that's a good match. But nothing on night one left me excited for night two.
Yeah, I think this is where the concept and the format of 2 rounds in the one night. I think this is where that failed. This is where they definitely, I think, should have split up some of the championship matches and had the round 1 and then maybe 2 or 3 championship matches. I think it would have worked out a little bit better. To me, it almost seems like round 1 was a, skip it. Because there wasn't any real matchups in the round based on the tournament that I was extremely excited about, with the possible exception of seeing crap, I forgot their names. Seeing the former NWA World Tag Team Champions, the Heat Seekers. Yeah. Seeing them, that's the only thing that had me even just a little bit excited in the first round. And I think I wasn't the only one. The crowd looked like they were half the size of the night 2, and the energy just wasn't there. And again, DK was right. There wasn't a can't miss matchup, no matter how the tournament would have worked out, in my opinion.
One of the things that we didn't address was that being there live, we saw Billy Corgan come down and walked to the commentary table, but they never addressed to the live audience what was happening. So they finished all the quarterfinal matches. There's still the 2 semifinals and then, of course, the finals. And I thought that we were going to have the 2 semifinals that night. So we all sat there waiting for about 10 minutes in limbo with no real direction from the show or anything else. I finally got up and walked over to Kyle Davis and said, "Hey, man, is the show over? What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, we're going to announce it just as soon as they're done talking. Yeah, the show's over." It's like, well, you didn't have like, okay, the show's over. There was no lights or celebration or anything else. It just, all right, that's it. We're done.
Well, the funny thing is, as you watch them talk to Billy Corgan, I don't know if you've gone back and watched this or not, but you see them cleaning up and moving the chairs and everything behind them at the table. And you're just like going, all right. Now, Billy actually had some interesting things to say. And if you haven't gone and watched it, I would recommend that you do. But it's just, I don't know. It was weird even by my standards. So it probably should have been done behind the scenes instead of like out at the table. But, who am I to question genius?
Another nitpick I had too is that they were in the great state of Tennessee, no longer in Atlanta. And the logo that's affixed to the podium is that outline of Atlanta with the NWA letters in it. And it just kind of felt to me, and I know it's a nitpick, but it just felt like update the logo. It doesn't look like you're going back to Atlanta anytime soon. Give us the outline of Tennessee with the NWA logo. Hell, I'll do it for free.
Or
update the logo. What's that?
Just do a plain one.
Yeah, or just do an NWA logo like what we see on all the merchandise.
Right. So
maybe they forgot how to spell it.
IT.
I would not be surprised if that was the case. So, all right.
Real quick, before we go to the next card, I want to point out Firefly said, Idol Stable just suddenly stopped the goofiness for the night. It was super cool to see Idol and Tyrus have faith in their guys. I don't mind the Rick Rude tribute by Tyrus and Clearwater. Yeah, same thing. I thought that was fine. I was okay with that. It went over well with the crowd. They got heat for them. The start of night 2 was also a little bit anticlimactic. You had Mims versus Aj Kazana, and I'll be honest, I didn't see this match. I was getting a pretzel and a soda. It just didn't seem all that interesting, and but they went quite a long time. I guess the match was almost 10 minutes.
Is Aj Kazana any relation to Joe Kazana and the promoter Joe Kazana?
I guess so, because they said that his grandfather was in the business and his dad was in the business, but they never explained who.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Joe Kazana was a wrestler. He mostly worked enhancement talent in WCW and the NWA, but his father, Joe Kazana, was a promoter, and I believe one of the driving forces behind the Continental area, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the way they made it sound. And I was... of course, the only people I could think of was, because it made it sound like it was like the Knoxville area or whatever, and I kept thinking, I go, Goulas? He was part of the Goulas group? Or, all they said was like Grandpa was a promoter and Dad was a wrestler, and they said, Grandpa promoted in the east side of Tennessee, and that was it. They didn't give us any names or anything. So I suppose if you know that Kasanas were doing stuff like that, then you knew. But they certainly didn't go out of their way to explain it to us.
Sometimes a wrestling announcer will go out of the way to explain every single piece of minutia to the point that it's almost sick to hear it. And then sometimes they don't say anything at all. There needs to really be a happy medium, between what's going on right now with the NWA and what happens in other promotions where they tell you everything about what color underwear they're wearing. These are the Batten Twins.
I've always wanted to be a Batten Twin. I don't know why we're seeing them currently, but I've always wanted to.
I'm trying. It's supposed to be Joe Kazana and Scott Stradlin versus the Batten Twins.
Ah.
But, I guess they're not announcing them. So, all right. You know what? Experiment's over. Fine. As soon as I figure out how to get rid of it, I'm getting rid of it.
But, Jay, you've made my entire night just on that one statement.
Yes.
But I will say that Aj Kazana is he'd fit the NWA's mold. He's a big guy. Yeah. He may have even been a little bit bigger than Big Strong Mims, which, by the way, stop calling him that and go back to just Mims. And certainly don't call out Big Strong Mims before you do your finisher. That's just stupid. But taking those things aside, when you just look at the match itself, it did go what seemed like a long time, and according to Wikipedia, it was 9 minutes and 15 seconds.
Okay.
And, but I thought he looked well, and the fans did react to him. So he is known there in Nashville. So, I don't know. Good for them. Yay. Mims won. Good for Mims. Yay. I didn't have anything against the match.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to the next Dilly Bob, and that would be we had Scion teaming with, and this was a team war match. I kind of thought that was a dead thing, because that's what basically closed out Power right before Power Trip. So I didn't think we were going to see any more team war matches, but nevertheless, we got Scion teaming with the OGK, Taven and Bennett, which I was surprised that they were there, because I kind of thought that they wouldn't be there at all. And they took on Jake Dumas and the Fixers, Bradley and Legursky, and then Gold Rush with Black G's, Clearwater, and Marche Rocket. Now, this one was a little confusing because I feel like they didn't wrestle the same way as they did on the Power, where all three men were involved. It just kind of seemed like the guys waited on the outside, arbitrarily coming in when it made sense. I didn't like this match at all. Scion did some crazy stuff. OGK was over in Nashville. The Fixers were over. But all in all, this was just kind of a weird deal. What did you think, Jaden?
I didn't say it, so I can't give you an honest opinion. It's nice to see the OGK back, honestly. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they had to work Impact the night of the tournament, the first night, which is why they couldn't be there. So they were probably, found that out, so they just honored their booking. It's nice to have a tag team honor their booking that they make, and I know sometimes things happen, but they probably arranged with it and talked about it ahead of time and not just decided not to be there. It's nice to see that.
That is nice to see. I'm glad when people do that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I watched this. I didn't hate it, but I saw no reason for it. I mean, because really, outside of Scion and OGK, don't let dyslexics try to read initials. I've seen them. What do I need this for? I mean, they were on last night. It's not like the only person that hadn't been there was Scion. put him in a match with Black G's and, let it go 6 minutes. This thing went almost 12, and it's kind of painful at points. And so didn't get. I mean, I enjoyed the first match, the opening match, for what it was. I think my comment was that's what an opening match should be. Kind of set the pace. It was competitive. Two big, strong guys, two big hosses, kind of beating on each other. The first match, yeah, this is what an opening match is. This match was just there. But then I also enjoyed the third match on the pre-show. Although I was a little bit surprised they didn't have a bigger match on this pre-show, since they'd had such a big match with the Briscoes on night one. But third match was PJ Hawks versus Alex Taylor, who was there with Captain Yuma, but they were really putting PJ over.
Yeah, which they should. And this also saw the ending of Captain Yuma being a part of the Ill-Begotten. The stable that he created, the baby that he birthed, has rejected him, has jettisoned him back into space.
Must be teenagers.
Huh?
They must be teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the end of that. It was it was a good spot for PJ to get in there and look good. Alex Taylor is kind of like a jobber to the stars at this point anyways, so it wasn't like he needed a whole lot there.
But it was a good match. I mean, for what it was, it's not gonna main event anywhere.
No.
Except for maybe, the backyard of Jaden's neighbor. But but again, for just a pre-show thing, they had two matches at least that you sit there and go, okay, this is wrestling. I mean, I understand what this is. This is wrestling, pro wrestling.
So let's jump into night two, excuse me, of the live pay-per-view. We got Jay and Mark versus Mike and VSK. This match, I felt like, again, they're good enough to lose to the Briscoes, or excuse me, they're good enough to beat Pope and Mims. They're good enough to beat the Fixers, but they just weren't good enough to beat the Briscoes. This, again, watching Jay and Mark fly through the ring, really kind of dissecting VSK from his tag team partner. It's good tag team wrestling. Like, this is what I wanted to see. Not my favorite match of the night by far, but just shows you how talented the Briscoes are. I thought this was a good match. DK, what did you think about Briscoes versus Cardonas?
I thought it was a solid match that really showcased the Briscoes. Cardona's got a little more offense than I would have cared for.
Yeah,
but it was relatively short. I mean, I don't even think it went a full 8 minutes. And it was, again, the Briscoes showing why they are the Briscoes and the hottest team that some Warner Media idiot executive doesn't want. If that's true, and if not true, then apparently Tony Khan doesn't want them. So, anybody and everybody, if you can snap these guys up for one of your shows, do it. They are tag team goals.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I've been probably the biggest proponent of the Briscoes, knowing them the longest. They showed here that they're worlds above 90% of the talent in the NWA. I think it's a great find for the NWA, but sometimes it's just kind of their one disadvantage to them is they kind of make a lot of their other talent look kind of weak in comparison, even when they're giving them stuff. It's just obvious that they're worlds better than about 90% of what the NWA is currently using. So keep them NWA and try to build around them. Maybe you might have lucked into a gold mine. Some executive might not want them, but The NWA can take that. And I've noticed some pictures that have come out with the NWA, I mean, with the Briscoes. And I think that's a brilliant idea. With Jay, you were commenting on it yourself with
with our friend Pollo de Mar.
Yes.
So for those of you who aren't familiar, Pollo de Mar is a drag queen, someone who dresses up as a woman, performs as a woman. Pollo de Mar is super knowledgeable about the NWA, super knowledgeable about pro wrestling, especially tag team wrestling. They have an affinity for tag team wrestling, and I guess Pollo's what she did for this taping was mostly in a producer role, but her dream is to be like managing on TV and managing at the Crockett Cup, and she met up with the Briscoes and took a photo, and a lot of people were like, oh, that's just damage control, but it's really like it wasn't. It was somebody who, their paths have crossed multiple times at Game Changer Wrestling. Pollo de Mar is part of their Los Angeles Game Changer Wrestling. She's been a part of the other GCW shows as well. So it wasn't like a publicity stunt. It was just, hey, she took photos with Sam Adonis. She took photos with a couple other guys on the show, and it was just a matter of fact that, hey, it's the Briscoes, and the Briscoes didn't look uncomfortable. They didn't look angry. They didn't look mad. They looked like they were happy to be there. So it might help them down the road, but who knows? Like, I don't think that's why they did it. I think they were just being,
maybe not, but I definitely think it was something that, because a lot of people were talking about it.
Yeah.
It was the topic of conversation when it comes to the Briscoes, more than I think even mentioning the FTR match that's coming up. And yes, a lot of people are seeing it as a publicity stunt, but in my opinion, you can't fake. It's really, really hard to fake that look of like you're happy to be there.
Right.
That didn't feel like a staged photo. That felt like a real photo.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely something that helped a lot.
I agree. And yeah, I hope it does. All right, so let's get back to the show. The next matchup was another Crockett Cup semifinal match, and that was the Commonwealth Connection, Williams and Smith versus La Rebellion, the tag team champions. Now, we said all along that we didn't feel like La Rebellion was going to make it to the finals. In fact, I know DK had them going out rather early. I think none of us saw them being in the finals. And so when they lost, it wasn't a huge surprise, especially when you're losing to a tag team of Doug Williams, who's wrestling nobility, versus, the King Prince of wrestling, when you have Harry Smith Jr., his father, being so synonymous with pro wrestling, both in the United States and the United Kingdom. And let's be honest, Harry Smith's pedigree can stand on its own. IWGP Tag Team Champion, WWE Tag Team Champion, multiple-time NWA World Tag Team Champion with Lance Archer. So to say that these guys weren't qualified or anything like that would just be a mistake. I thought these guys looked great in this matchup. La Rebellion should have been at a disadvantage because they were facing two super gifted performers, and it just seemed like they weren't ready for that match, much to what you said earlier, DK.
Yeah, the match itself is actually good. I enjoyed it. So there was a botch at the end, but it played into the end well enough. The tag team champions went for one of their finishers, and didn't even come close. But from there it went to the end, but it looked like that's the way it was planned. That they would kick out or whatever from the finisher and get the victory. And it was a good match. And we said that, Kevin Frazier, our fourth member, pointed out that you have a chance to build two teams here. One team beats the Law Rebellion, another team wins the Crockett Cup. And you see that this was, they listened.
Yeah.
We take full credit. They listened to this show and they said, hey, that's a good idea. And Williams and Smith had made it clear that they wanted gold. Smith had pointed out that, the gold chain, the gold trim on Williams' robe, that they were after gold. They were after the tag team titles. And so it was a good match. It had the right finish, and it's leading somewhere.
Right.
Now, can you imagine if Smith and his partner win the tag team titles? Doug Williams and Smith win the tag team titles, and now the Briscoes get to challenge them. It's an instantly build-up match on that, and it's something you see. Well, will the Briscoes? Well, I don't want to get into the finals too much, but it definitely is an interesting way to set up some booking possibilities.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It was a well orchestrated match. I mean, really, both the semifinals were well orchestrated matches. They had the right outcomes. Booking wise, everything made good sense.
So you're saying somebody else booked the second night than the first night? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying probably, or someone developed a brain in between, one of the two. I don't know, but we're getting to the part that I just absolutely loved. It may have been my favorite booking angle of the two nights. And so, I mean, I can't even tell you the old school vibes that this gave off for me. Oh man. It was great. So we have Jack Stane versus Anthony Mayweather in a national title match. And the three of us split on the outcome. And so, Jay, why don't you talk about what our predictions were?
So the predictions were, Jade and myself kind of thought, well, there's no way that Mayweather's going to lose the title on his first match. And so for that, I mean, we get half credit, right?
Because we're right.
He didn't lose his first match, but to DK's credit, he didn't walk away champion. And that was our boy, Jack Stane. Now, Jack Stane, first and foremost, with all kidding aside, I think the three of us, and even when Kevin was on here, the four of us, huge Jack Stane fans. There's a reason why he was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. They call him the Dane event. He literally is the Grand Slam of the NWA. And if I didn't think so highly of him as just a human being, I would still say these things about him as a pro wrestler. The fact of the matter is, he's a great dude. And he's doing such great work right now in the NWA that it's been a slow burn. But this transition from, him and Mayweather were having struggles on the first season back from the pandemic pause, and they were
losing to Boogie and Mims.
Yeah, and Boogie and Mims were coming in and getting victories over them. And Jax was almost painted to look like the weak link. I mean, it was the one shot from one shot from Boogie that put him down on the floor hard, right? He missed the entire match, and it kind of felt like Mayweather was going to be the guy to turn on Dane, but in fact, the exact opposite happened, and Dane is metamorphosized into this heel that's probably the best heel that the NWA has right now, because where all this will come out there and talk, you're going to see Jax come out there and do, and when he came out, he did some do. So the match itself was pretty good. I mean, we had Mayweather who injured his knee early on. Like he took a dive to the outside, and his whole body thumped on the ground. It sounded like a sack of potatoes hitting the hard floor. And that was a point where I kind of even pointed out to my daughter again, oh man, he hit his knee hard. And so I think it was halfway worked and halfway shoot that they focused on that knee. and he really got that leg, that injured leg, really became a point of attention for Jack. So the whole match, he's working over the leg, and then by some act of God, you've got Anthony Mayweather, who's beaten, bruised, broken leg. His leg's about to fall off, and he's able to get Jack Stane to tap out. Unbelievable.
Quickly,
yeah.
He put him in that armbar submission, and about 10 seconds later, Jax is tapping, and you're going, what the hell here?
You know what, though? That's smart as a heel. Think of it like this. If Dane, in the back of his mind, had this planned as a backup, he's not going to want to potentially injure himself so that he would screw up the backup plan. If he knew ahead of time in his head what his backup plan was, and we'll go into it, then he knows he had to tap quick because he had something else to work with.
It was beautifully booked. I mean, people, I do not say this about the NWA very often. This was a beautifully booked thing, because the very first thing the people do is form. They annoyed me because they went back and forth between calling them Crimson and Mayweather. Pick one. And it was, they were noting, they go, man, Dane is just laying in the corner propped up, and he has a smirk on his face, and he said he was out to destroy him, and I guess he didn't win the title, but he did destroy him, or whatever, and he's just smirking and looking and everything. And I had no idea that what was getting ready to happen or what was going to happen. And so what did happen, Jay?
So then what happened was miraculous, was marvelous, and all things in between. In fact, if you give me a second, I'm going to pull it up here. Oh, I can't. Never mind. I can't pull it up. Videos, they don't, my camera video doesn't want to work with my computer video, so I can't pull it up. But essentially, Jack Stane, understanding the circumstances, he lost the match. You see the security come out to help poor Anthony Mayweather, who's basically a cripple now. His left leg is no longer functioning. He's carried to the back. They're dragging him out of the ring, and you see Jax looks like he's okay with what's happening. He looks like, okay, I get it, I lost. And then something just triggers, and he goes chasing after him right by me and my daughter. And I'm like, what's going on? And he goes and proceeds to beat down every security guard that was helping Anthony. He drags Anthony's lifeless corpse to the ring and then tucks his legs into the ring apron in what can only be described as an act of pure violence. And not just pure violence, but like premeditated, right? Like, you get a rap for this. And he goes underneath the ring apron, pulls out a turnbuckle, and decides to make Anthony Mayweather look like Jason Todd, at least from the legs down. Just beats the holy hell out of his legs. Keeps just destroying Anthony Mayweather. You've got the referees trying to break it up. You've got people screaming from the ringside, stop, he's already dead. The security guards are trying to get out there. You got the referee, and Jack says, I'm cashing in. And he was close enough that I could hear, I'm cashing in. And the referee looks disturbed, and the announcers kind of sounded disturbed. Kyle Davis sounded disturbed. He pulls him out into the ring. He sits in the corner, and 30 seconds later, with one of the most vicious Western lariats I've seen in quite some time, you have a new national champion. Superb booking. It was done perfectly. Even and it's hard to see I don't know if you guys saw it on the camera, but I saw it there ringside. Even the gal holding the belt, who brought it to the referee to hand to Dane, was yelling at the referee, and she looked salty and angry and sad and bitter and mad. And he hands the belt to Dane, who then celebrates right above the lifeless corpse that is Anthony Mayweather.
Yeah, and I want to point something out here, because anybody who knows me knows I hate Money in the Bank.
Yes.
And I hate cash-in options like this, and I hate anybody who does this type of thing on any type of regular basis, for sure. And just in general. But if you're going to do something like that, this was a beautiful way to do it because they were already in the match. They were there. They had the match. And so if you're going to do the screw job, it's between the same two guys who just had the match. Sure, he beat him up in between and, whatever. But, man, the heat. I mean, you tell me, J. Cal, was there any person more hated that night than Jack Stane? I mean, do you think there were people that wanted to stab Jack Stane as he walked back to the back? Because I'll bet you there was probably someone that was like, man, if I brought my knife in,
I will say this, that he generated more heat that night than anybody else, and that's including Matt Cardona. And again, all apologies to the world's heavyweight champion. Nothing he did was vile, as disgusting, as heart-wrenching as Jack Stane literally beating the knee off of Anthony Mayweather. I mean, it was a thing of beauty. Like I said, it being there in the moment, I popped because, again, I'm a huge Jack Stane fan. Come on. But I was the only person cheering. And it was fun, man. I recorded that clip. It's now on the YouTube channel. If you guys are here, it's in the shorts because it didn't take very long, about 30 seconds, for Jack Stane to become world's heavyweight champion, or excuse me, national champion. Pardon me. But I loved every second of it. It was chef's kiss.
This was also the moment that I realized that this wasn't your normal trained SEAL crowd like at the Atlanta tapings. This is actually a crowd with some emotion. It felt so great to hear that in an NWA crowd instead of, again, a bunch of trained monkeys clapping when they're supposed to.
I agree. Everything about this, except for Velvet, was just so beautiful. And Velvet's a beautiful woman, but she shouldn't talk on commentary. And I did. I love this. I mean, if you were to ask me to give a star rating to the Crockett Cup, I would give it a 5 out of 5. And not because I thought every match was a 5 out of 5, but I thought this was like 100 out of 5. And so all the bad stuff, just brought it down to 5 out of 5. But,
hey, DK, does the M stand for Meltzer?
No. If it was Meltzer, it'd be a 7.5 out of 5.
No, when it didn't happen in Japan.
Well,
That's fair.
And it didn't have Kenny or the Young Bucks, but I guess if it was Meltzer, it would be a 4.25. So anyway, but yeah, I don't know who did this. I don't know who produced this. I don't know who came up with it. I'm going to guess probably Mayweather did a lot of it.
I'm sure of it.
And God, it was a thing of beauty. And so I guess I need to stop gushing. What happened next?
Well, first of all, we all needed to take a breather because that was some pretty intense stuff. But next up, we get the Hex versus Pretty Empowered, Ella Envy and Kenzie Page. Now, I'll be perfectly honest, I had no idea who Pretty Empowered was. I didn't want them on this card. I know Kenzie Page, and you know what? I've grown to really respect Kenzie Page, and she's become one of the treats within the NWA. Ella Envy had no idea who she was. The Hex have been a pretty phenomenal tag team. They've been defending their titles across the U.S. They've been defending in the U.K., in Germany. So nothing but respect to Allison Kay, Marty Bell. But they got a pretty rude awakening at Crockett Cup night number 2 because Pretty Empowered was pretty damn good. Their taunting was great. I guess Kenzie Page is a heel now. That suspension really did something to her because her whole demeanor has changed, and it was fun. It was a competitive match, which I wasn't expecting at all. I really thought that this was going to be more of a. I think this was going to be more of an exhibition match for Hex, and it really wasn't. It was pretty damn good, and I was happy with the match. Again, this was a night where like so many things could have been crappy. And what I would have assumed would have been just subpar was pretty good. What did you think of it on at home, DK? What did you think when you were watching it?
Well, it was really kind of crazy because I don't know if it was just the endorphins from the last angle or what, but I ended up enjoying this match when I mean, the only thing, honestly, I kind of forgot about the suspensions. So I didn't necessarily get why Kenzie Page was suddenly a heel, although now it would make sense that, hey, you guys have screwed me over twice, suspending me when not suspending others and blah, 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 and everything. So, yeah, now I can see her as being a thing. Her and Ella Envy look like a tag team.
Yeah.
You know, they wrestled like a tag team. They actually tagged more and better than the tag team champions. And so, I mean, look, the end was never in doubt. We knew it was going to happen because taking the titles off the Hex right now would be as dumb as taking the women's title off of Camille.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got people who were defending the title in Europe. Well, when was the last NWA world title to be defended in Europe? And it was probably the world championship, and it was probably Aldis's first reign.
Yeah.
And so, you know, look, say what you want to. I have become huge fans of the Hex and just fallen in love with them as a tag team. Pretty empowered, looked pretty and empowered, although don't care for pink hair. And, you know, it was a good match. I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. And again, maybe I was still on the endorphins from the previous thing, but, you know, it was good.
You know, it'd been really funny if Jay took his hat off right now and he'd have pink hair. It's almost like it was, you know, planned out. It's funny though, because if I remember correctly, you weren't the biggest fan of crap, I forget her name now. This is why brain damage, people. This is why you should never take chair shots. You forget all this stuff. But if I remember, neither of you were that big a fan of Marty Bell or Allison Kay.
No.
But this is the New Age Outlaws theory, where the team is greater than the sum of their parts. They click very well together. They make a very good tag team. I just wish that actually, I'm glad they don't, but it's interesting how they don't have enough material for their bottom side. That's the only thing that they have in common generally as a team, but they definitely work out well.
Yeah, no, and I get that too, and I see, you know, I wasn't the biggest fan. Oh, by the way, my hair's still brown, but my daughter just dyed her hair pink. My now 9-year-old, that was what she wanted for her birthday. So, hey.
And for those of you who don't know, I saw that on Instagram. So
and my wife has had pink hair multiple times. So
times. Pink
hair is okay in the Kaylee household. I just I just stick to the brown hair.
You know, I got to take my little shots where I can.
But what I'm going to say though to what Jane just said is, yeah, I liked Allison Kay a lot. Actually, I mean, I've been an Allison Kay fan. I think she was the right choice to be women's world champion when she did. I wasn't a huge Marty Bell fan, but I feel like Marty Bell has gotten better and better and better. And to what Jane just said, I do feel like as a tag team, they're solid. They're really, really good. They're defending the belts everywhere. That's what you want in your tag team champions. I wasn't the biggest Kenzie Page fan. She's been growing on me too. She's very much not the same, but in similar fashion to Camille, in that every time I see her, she gets better. And that's the best compliment I can give any wrestler, is because the craft, you know, you're always learning when you're a performer. You're always getting better. And when steel sharpens steel, when you're in the ring with, if you're Kenzie Page, you're in the ring with Natalia Markova, you're in the ring with Camille, you're in the ring with Allison Kay. These matches help you become a better in-ring performer. You get stronger. And so her tag team with Ella Envy, who, again, I don't know much about Ella Envy, but what I saw, totally enjoyed. Really thought that they looked the part. And remember, we kind of thought like, well, why isn't it the Smiley Dragons? I'm perfectly okay now that it was pretty empowered.
And I'll tell you, I like Kenzie Page better as a heel.
Yes, 100%.
I think the personality that she shows as a heel because, well, I mean, let's be honest, she never showed a lot of personality as a face, but the personality that she showed, and I don't know a whole lot about Ella Envy, and I don't know who's been around longer or how old Ella is or anything like that, but I mean, they clicked well. And, you know, look, when Allison Kay was Sienna in Impact, I didn't like her at all. And so she grew on me in the NWA. Marty Bell, I've always thought, you know, was a basic talent, mid-card, you know, ladies wrestler. But it's a tag team. And, you know, this is just true. Some people are better in a tag team. I think you look at somebody like Don Kernoodle back in the old days who teamed with Sergeant Slaughter and later with Ivan Koloff to win the World Tag Team Championships. He was a guy who was never going to be more than a mid-carder as a single. But he was a strong tag team wrestler, and you bought him as a World Tag Team Champion. And this team with Allison Kay and the Hex, I mean, you know, I've gone from being iffy about both of them to so enjoying the team. It's almost scary. And, you know, and hopefully.
Real quick, the caveat to Pretty Empowered. They started teaming in November of last year. They've had a total of 6 matches as a tag team. At least that's according to Cage Match. So not bad at all for a team that's really only had 6 matches. And the last time they worked together was in February. And before that was December. So they haven't had a ton of time together in the ring. And they looked pretty good as far as I'm concerned. And here's the part of the show where J Cal is here, but he's not. So hang on momentarily.
We have Jaden twice. Cool.
Yeah.
So I replaced both of you tonight. Wow. You know I'm carrying the show when I have to carry both of you.
Well, someone's got to do it.
Well, let's get to the junior heavyweight title. I'm the only pretty face now. And so.
It get pretty ugly.
Damn.
But pretty's still in there. That's what's important.
Yeah.
So let's get to the junior heavyweight title, because we all know I love NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. And so my first question for everybody out there, Jaden, is what do you think of the belt design?
You know, it's funny how the last 2 NWA Junior Heavyweight Championships were copies of an NWA World Heavyweight Championship, the current one and the one before. I like that design. I liked it as the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. I thought it was interesting looking. I like it better without initials on it. I think that's kind of a dumb move. Yes. If they were going to put somebody on there instead of putting initials, maybe, I don't know, their pictures would have been nice. But I do like it as the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. Other than the people in this chat and maybe half a dozen other people, nobody else would really know that. I don't think they even. I know they tried to get it over in commentary, but I don't think they did a good job of it. At least not what I was hearing. But you know, I'm glad it's the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship back. I know we joke around that there's 97 1/2 championships in the NWA right now, but the Junior Heavyweight Championship is where the NWA can shine, because they could show smaller wrestlers that can wrestle instead of smaller wrestlers that can do a bunch of flippy bullshit.
And one thing that I wanted to point out, as I know I still have the graphic up there, that's the replica of the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship that our pal NWA Gold is going to give away to one of you subscribers when we hit 1,000. But that's basically the design for the junior heavyweight. So, you know, if you can get creative with the tape or something, you can have a replica of the junior heavyweight title. The one thing I have a problem though is, and our pal over at World Title Histories would be the great Hisa. You know, he has done a great job of, you know, collecting the world champions of basically forever. And when you look at 1948, I'm trying to look it up right now. The World Junior Heavyweight Champion was not was it Ken Fellion or Kevin Fellion, whoever they keep talking about. I mean, I see Leroy McGurk. I see Vergagne. I don't see Kevin Fellion. Where does that come from?
All right. Do you really want to know?
Well, look, the first junior heavyweight champion as recognized by the NWA was Billy Goals, right? Am I wrong?
Sort of, kind of. Look, here's the thing. Pinky George, who we all know is the guy that brought the 6 promoters together that started the NWA, actually used the term National Wrestling Alliance prior to the 1948 creation of a group of promoters. And so he actually had National Wrestling Alliance champions before the National Wrestling Alliance, as we think about it, was created.
Was a thing.
So
Yeah.
the first person that he ever gave the title to was a guy named Ken Fellion, whatever his name is, Fenelon, and he gave him the title to lose it, which is not uncommon in the history of wrestling. So, he was only champion for, I can't remember, a couple of weeks or something like that. But somehow someone went out on, some list, maybe Wikipedia, and found his name and declared him the first champion. But yeah, when they actually came together, it was a little bit weird in that I think the champion that was recognized was Billy Goals or whatever, who I can't remember if he was Pinky George's champion or what, but
Yeah, that was Pinky George.
Right. And so what Leroy McGurk, much like Lou Thez, was the National Wrestling Association's champion. And so at some point they actually wrestled and unified titles, but I think before that even happened, the NWA had started recognizing McGurk as champion. And unfortunately, that title reign didn't last very long because, McGurk was in an auto accident like a couple of months after that all happened. So, sad case.
So we put KF on the belt, even though that's a little bit misleading. And then we have RF, and I'm not sure what that even stands for. But why not DH, like Danny Hodge or Hiro Matsuda or Angelo Savoldi?
It should have been Danny Hodge. I mean, how do you recognize the title and how do you recognize the title great if you don't recognize Danny Hodge? Title history. That's the word I'm looking for. The title history. How do you recognize the history of that championship if you don't recognize Danny Hodge? A guy who blows everybody else away in single title reigns and combined title reigns and number of title reigns and all that stuff. And so
best handshake.
Best handshake, yes. He would kill
Russian
you.
apples. Being on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Right. And so the whole thing behind it and why you put Buddy Rogers, I've never seen somebody work so hard to explain why the heavyweight champion was on the junior heavyweight championship belt. Because all of us were going crazy after the pictures released. Who the hell's BR? Who the hell's BR? And to go, well, Buddy Rogers wrestled around 225, and that's the weight limit that I decided to pick. Yeah, put yourself over there, Billy. Because I don't want it to be the high flying. I want it to be the mat wrestling thing, which is what the original NWA champion was, a junior heavyweight champion was. And and then it ties to the belt. Well, sure, it ties to the belt. So why not put Luthez? Luthez tied to the belt. Luthez is also not that big, heavy at that time. So, stupid reasoning. I'm kind of hoping as time goes on, if they ever have to have the belt remade or the side things replaced, that they'll just replace them with plain ones or something, or switch them with the NWA logos that are the second, plates on it, side plates.
Yeah, that would have been a better way to go.
Not smart. But what'd you think of the match, Jay?
So the match I thought was pretty good. I like the way that they played it out, where you have the two veterans in the ring up against the two up-and-comers. Now, I'm not super familiar with Darius Lockhart, but I know he hasn't been around as long as Homicide or Austin Aries. I know Colby Corino basically has been, but most of that he was still wearing a diaper, so it doesn't really count. But having them kind of like try to one-up each other, I thought was an interesting way to start the match. And then you could see the frustration between Lockhart and Colby Corino, and they would get some fired offense in, and they would kind of go on a tirade. They would go on a brief offensive run, and then it would switch over again, and they'd go back to trying to one up each other. I felt like that was pretty cool. I like the sportsmanship of it. I think all along, DK, I think you were rooting for Homicide initially. I was initially rooting for Austin Aries, and I don't remember who you initially wanted to win, Jaden. But when we came to this one,
I think I predicted Carino because I thought that's the way they were booking it.
Yeah, well, you definitely predicted Carino. So did DK. I got this one right by predicting Homicide, and it was kind of a feel good moment to see him win that belt. Like I said, the match I thought was pretty good. It was interesting. It's not what I was expecting. Of course, it's a 4-way match. They had to do a lot of that divide and conquer, a lot of throw the guy out so that you and I can wrestle. And they did that pretty well. I think all guys looked really good in this. Darius Lockhart looked really good to me. That's the best I've seen him in the NWA. Colby's growing on me, and I hate to say it because I'm not a big Colby guy, but he looked pretty good. And Firefly says Colby's headed for bigger things than a junior heavyweight title. I tend to disagree. I don't know. And this is my own personal feeling. I don't think we're going to have Austin Aries around for much longer. So I think you're going to see Colby Corino and Homicide battle over that belt. I think that's going to be the feud to watch out for. Jaden, were you able to catch any of this match? Did you see this one?
Yeah, I did, and I enjoyed it. I was still kind of hoping Homicide would have pulled out a vaccine needle and hit Austin Aries with it, but I enjoyed it. It was a good match. I don't like 4-ways. And especially a single elimination, I thought was stupid. If you're going to do a 4-way, you do a 4 corners match where anybody can tag, and there's eliminations. At least that means something. It's kind of like a mini tournament. But I'm glad Homicide won. I actually like the fact that him and La Rebellion now are also all champions. That's kind of interesting. The Spanish market, if they're trying to go for it, they definitely went for it with this. They got the tag team and the junior heavyweight champion are Spanish wrestlers.
Don't forget
Homicide's well respected.
Latina too.
True. Homicide's well respected and a very good athlete, former Ring of Honor champion. He's also statistically, he would have been the safest bet because he's not considered a problem child like Austin Aries. He's not considered a no name like
Darius
Lockhart, yeah. And everybody was suspecting Carino, I think, or at least a lot of people were. So this is the time that controversy, I think, not going with what everybody thought was going to happen was the right decision.
Yeah.
So the NWA doesn't do that often right, but this time it was the right decision, in my opinion.
DK, you look like you have something you want to say.
Me? No. When do I ever have anything to say? No, I hate 4-ways. This, again, didn't do a lot for me to change my mind on hating 4-ways. That being said, it worked as well as it was going to work. I was originally a Homicide fan because he's a former ROH champion. He's held other top titles in some smaller promotions, and I feel like when you have somebody that you can go, everybody knows who ROH is. We can go, our junior heavyweight champion is a former ROH champion. Then, and by everybody, I mean everybody that's clued into wrestling.
Yeah.
As former ROH champion, I just think that says a lot. I think it adds a prestige to it. I was glad on the belt it does say, champion of the world and everything. And I was happy for the overall look and feel. You can get into some of those. He's a former NWA tag team champion, of course, a couple times with Hernandez. So he's got the credentials. And I'm glad he won for the most part. I don't like being a game changer, but, hell, a world champion's a game changer. So, I don't know what.
Bobby Battito asked a good question. We'll start with you first, Jaden. Who would you like to see Homicide defend the title against next? Now, we just saw him on Tuesday night defend against Aries. We'll talk about that really soon. But who would you like to see him wrestle against next?
Rig Jazz. I think Rig Jazz will be a great wrestler, and he's a wrestler, something the NWA wants, to go in the same vein. Rhett Titus, I think, would be an excellent challenger for that championship. I know he's locked up in MLW, but Davey Richards, I think, would have been great.
Davey Richards is going to be wrestling both the world champion in the NWA and the world champion of the United Wrestling Network. In fact, it'll be at a United Wrestling Network. Their next TV taping, which I believe is in April, Davey Richards will be challenging Chris Dickinson for the United World Championship. Just wanted to throw that out there. Those are some terrific names that you threw out there, Jaden. I especially like Rhett Titus because he's around. We'll see him. I know he was at the tapings this week, so hopefully we'll see some more of him very soon. DK, what about you? Who do you want to see him face next?
Well, when you asked the question, Rhett Titus was actually the first person that popped into my mind. I think that would be a good thing. And I don't know, maybe Chris Dickinson, who's probably, would in that 225 weight limit, because to me, he looks like he's probably only about 210, 215. So, I think there's some options out there in the NWA specifically. If you think of an NWA wrestler, I wouldn't mind seeing some matches with Darius Lockhart. It seems to be pretty smooth and work well. So I don't have any objections to that.
Within the NWA, I really like. I really want to see PJ get a shot, and I know it's not PJ's time yet. He's not really had a lot of emphasis in the junior heavyweight division, but I think PJ Hawks would be a great challenge for that title outside of the NWA because of his relationship, because of the similar styles. I would really like to see B-Boy get a shot at Homicide for the junior heavyweight title. B-Boy, him and Homicide's career path almost mirror each other. Not quite the accolades that Homicide has had, but in terms of being involved with wrestling and even out here in Southern California, B-Boy has a school. He's training new talents. Like, he's really giving back to the wrestling community. He's a guy that I think him versus Homicide would be a phenomenal match.
All right. Well, we're at 9:09. So what was the next match?
So then we go to the three-way with Camille, Chelsea Green, and Kylie Ray. And I'm telling you, the fans were pretty much for all three of these girls. Kylie Ray gets over everywhere she goes. She similar to the Fixer. She's got that goofball gimmick, but once she gets inside the ring, she's pretty much all business. And you'll see her. She kind of goes back and forth to the goofiness, but when she's in that ring, she's deadly. Chelsea Green had a strong following. A lot of people were cheering for her. But, of course, when the Queen came out, Camille literally had everyone captivated. I said it earlier, still sharp and still. She's so good, and she's getting better every time we see her. But there were parts in this match that I thought things could have happened either way. There was a super kick that Kylie Rae hit towards the end of the match that, like, Camille got all of it. I don't think she was able to avoid any of that impact. I think she got all of it. And I thought for sure Kylie Rae was walking out as champion at that moment. Of course, that's not what happened. Camille did win the match and looked like a dominant champion doing so. Yes, she had her hands full, but she was also fighting two women at the same time. And there was a lot of chaos involved. I thought this was a great match for women's wrestling. I thought Camille looked strong, and I don't think Chelsea or Kylie Rae looked bad in defeat. DK, what did you think?
I thought for a match that there was not one person anywhere that would have predicted Kylie Rae to win. And when she hit that super kick, like you said, near the end, and I literally said, "Oh fuck," out loud, watching the thing, and it's like, it was really like, "Oh fuck," they're going to put the title on her, and I couldn't even be upset about it. It was just like, man, what a shock, what a thing. It was a good match for a three-way again, and I don't care for three-ways. Well, maybe Kylie Rae, Chelsea Green. But anyway, I know she's with the Cardona now and married, but I really like Chelsea Green. I think she's underrated with her ring work. I think she's a great person for both Kylie Rae and Camille to be in the ring with.
Sure.
And I was glad Camille won. That made me very happy. And, I mean, let me tell you, outside of, I'll just say this now, even though we've still got a couple of other matches to go. Outside of the Team War, there was no match that I disliked on this card.
Exactly.
Whereas on the first night, I could barely find a match I could go, oh, that was excellent or great or, way better than I thought. Several matches on this card exceeded my expectations. This was one of them. And even the next match we're getting ready to talk about, it was good for what it was. But, yeah, I mean, I was happy. And I was really glad Camille won. I was glad that they could get me to think for a minute that Kylie, or second, that Kylie was going to win. And, and that's the girls in the ring that do that. I mean, a person can put a match together, but you got to be able to execute. And, whether accident, real, or whatever, that Kylie Rae hit that kick, I was just like, she's the new champion. I believe that in my heart when that happened.
Yeah, same.
Jaden?
I couldn't suspend my disbelief because there's no way they would put the belt on Kylie Rae. She's too unreliable. So I couldn't buy into it.
And I knew all that, but still, that kick hit. That's why I was OF. It was like, I can't believe they're going to do this because I would never think you're going to put the title on her. And there I was in that second, believing it.
But I think it was the wrong decision. I think they should have went with
Chelsea.
With Mrs. Cardona because I think they should have went with the power couple and have Camille. And I hate three-ways. I hate the rules of three-ways. I hate that it's not elimination. I hate that the champion can't lose the belt. But if they're going to do something this stupid, they should have done it to put some heat on Chelsea Green, because I think her coming out with a belt and Cardona coming out with a belt could create enough of a stir to really draw a lot of interest, and then build for Camille to get the belt back. Camille's the baby face, and as weird as it sounds, because she doesn't act or wrestle like a baby face as much as but she's the baby face. At least she's kind of that way.
To the fans, she is.
Yeah, to the fans, she's the baby face. The baby faces holding the champions only work in the Northeast. The NWA traditionally had heels, and the baby face won the belt but didn't hold the belt. And I think that's if the fans want Camille and get behind Camille so much, I think they'll get behind her really well, building into a really long feud and regaining the championship if done again properly.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you, and I don't think there's not an opportunity for that to still happen down the road, because I think this whole Cardona experiment only works if you give it time, and if they rush to take the belt off of him, you're kind of cut it off your nose to spite your face. Let the guy have some time to work as champion. And if you want to build it up and give it more heat, then put the belt on Chelsea Green. As much as I hate saying that because I love Camille as champion, put the belt on Chelsea Green. Have them come to Impact with both titles. Have this like ferocious, like, okay, maybe Aldis and Mickey go after the titles. Maybe Tom and Camille go after the titles. Maybe, there are ways to do this that make sense. And, what would Luthez do? Hold on. What would Luthez do? Said positive NWA reviews are going to take some getting used to. And you're telling me, like, I'm not supposed to. I'm going to always give you what I think about this show. And it was very hard for me to start saying negative things about this show a year ago when I felt like it just wasn't as good. But Sunday night, and also subsequently this Tuesday night, I really felt like the NWA delivered. And it is going to be hard for me to keep saying positive things because for the last year, I've been saying very few positive things. So, I don't know, Jaden. I think what you were saying could still happen. We could still see some more shenanigans from the Cardona family. Who knows?
Well, my thought on it, and this was my concern, is that despite the fact that Camille and Vladimir are calling themselves the power couple, or at least that's what the announcers are calling them. So
sure.
My fear is you take the title off Camille, you put it on Chelsea Green. It's not a Camille versus Chelsea Green feud. It's a Mickie James versus Chelsea Green feud.
Yeah.
And not that I have anything against Mickie, but that's not what I want to see right now. Right. And it doesn't need the title. You leave the title on Camille where she can continue to go out and defend the title in other promotions and other places and look good and, represent the NWA. And you let Chelsea Green and Mickie James feud in that couple rivalry or whatever. And you don't need the championship in that. So you can draw money with Camille as champion, and you can draw money with the feud between the two lady wrestlers, where I think if you take the title off of them, for Camille, then you lose one of your money opportunities.
That's also true. And by the way, 14 minutes ago on Twitter, Impact shared a video where Chelsea Green and Mickie James were arguing in the ring, and Chelsea Green leaves the ring, and then our world's heavyweight champion, Matt Cardona, hits his finishing move on Mickie James in the center of the ring. So, I don't know what kind of relationship the NWA has with Impact Wrestling, but don't be surprised if Aldis ends up in Impact at some point. Just saying.
Yeah. So anyway, the next one was the popcorn break, right?
Yeah, the next one was the popcorn break. And I'm still going to say, yes, this was the popcorn break. Yes, it wasn't the best match of the night. But I felt like Tyrus took this match a lot more serious than he's taken any of the other ones. And that's including the match with Scion. Maybe it was a sign of respect. Maybe it was a sign of fear. But, he sold for Rodney Mack. Maybe Rodney Mack just laid into him. But he sold for him. They were beating on each other. The one quip I had about this match is that the referee never really admonished Rodney Mack for the closed fist. Rodney Mack was just boxing this match, and the referee never said anything about the closed fist, which, that's kind of wrestling 101. You're always supposed to hit with an open hand. So for that, there was a drawback to it. But and then the finish, I didn't really like the finish. It was kind of out of nowhere, unexpected, the heart punch, and you blink, you missed it. So it was good for a good victory for Tyrus, a decent match for Tyrus, but I'm ready for the next. Jane, do you want to add anything?
I didn't really thought about it until you said something, but you're right. Tyrus is kind of like the Daredevil Dave Dahl of the NWA.
It wasn't a bad match. I do think Tyrus looked better. I actually did not know what happened when Tyrus got the pin, and I was watching, but I guess I actually missed the punch, and so it wasn't until the announcers were like heart punch, and I'm like, really? You know what heart punch? how did that happen? And when did that happen? But I guess so, since he got the win. I mean, this was the one where I guess you guys have predicted Rodney to win the title, but your predictions were based more on the fact that you were tired of Tyrus as champion. It was just like, I got no, they're not taking the title off him. He's one of Billy's boys. He'll be holding that title for a while. Although when we get to the Tuesday night thing, I have an interesting idea on who may be his next big challenger. So we'll see what they actually do. So, but then we got the finals.
Yep.
To the Crockett Cup.
The finals of the Cup, Williams and Smith versus the Briscoes. Now, I got to be honest, being there live, I really thought this might have gone either way because the Briscoes have looked so strong. But at the same time, you got Harry Smith, a multi-time world tag team champion for multiple wrestling promotions, and the ambassador of British wrestling in Doug Williams. They were also very over with this crowd. It was a great match. It was a styles clash, but it was fun. You had Davey doing some pretty power wrestling moves. You had Doug Williams doing some submission wrestling. And you had the Briscoes just being all over the place, doing a little bit of everything. I really enjoyed this match. DK, what did you think of this one?
Oh, it was my second favorite match of the thing. I mean, well, actually, let me say this. It was probably my favorite match. My second favorite story in the Crockett Cup nights. And, I thought they did very well. I thought there were a couple times when I thought, well, shit, they're going to put, they're going to give the cut to the Commonwealth connection. And, lo and behold, they didn't. It was, I didn't see any major botches that I remember in the match. Nothing that stood out to me, at least. They did great. They shook hands beforehand. They shook hands afterwards. It was a clean, mostly finish. And, I was pretty happy when it was all said and done. I was, I thought for a tournament that I wasn't overly thrilled about and there wasn't anything that truly excited me. I'll have to say that the final, it kind of blew me away. It didn't have the story to it and the heat to it that Jack Dane, Anthony Mayweather did, but just two teams going out there, one who's obviously the hottest, best team in the business right now with the Briscoes. And I'll take them against any signed tag team in the thing. You put them in there, and Doug Williams, for his age, and Harry Smith, I don't know if they've ever teamed before or not anywhere at any time, but they pulled it off. They looked like a seasoned tag team. They wrestled like a seasoned tag team. And they had me convinced a couple times they were going to win this thing. And so what can you ask for it besides that?
Jaden, what did you think?
I love tag team wrestling, and this is what tag team wrestling was and should be to me. It wasn't a perfect match, but it was a damn good match. And sometimes I'd rather it be not a perfect match because it looks more realistic. And it looks like they were fighting sometimes. Like it looked like a struggle, and I like that too. Doug Williams is great. Davey Boy Smith, Terry Smith, whatever is great. The Briscoes are great. I'm now excited for 2 tag teams in the NWA, which means they're probably going to split them up soon. But like I said, now maybe we can get the Commonwealth Connection as to win the tag titles, and they got an immediate challenger on the winner of the Crockett Cup and the team that eliminated them from the Crockett Cup to challenge them. That could be a long-term storyline feud for the tag team championship. That might not be the Briscoes and FTR, but in the NWA, that might be the best thing they could put out there to really get them talking about the NWA's tag team division. It could really set them up to the next level.
Yeah, and when we got into this whole tournament, and they were talking about the British invasion, it was supposed to be Aldis, it's supposed to be Doug Williams. I think that honestly, that tag team was put into that tournament to win the entire thing. I really thought that was the plan, and even with the Briscoes in it, I thought that was the plan. But man, it wasn't. We got the Briscoes as tag team champions. So, excuse me, not tag team champions, Crockett Cup tournament winners. So for me, there really wasn't a wrong answer here. And I really did enjoy seeing Davey and Doug in the ring together. Excuse me, Harry and Davey. Man, I'm all over the place. But it was a great match. Let's go to the World Heavyweight title match. Jeff Jarrett, your special enforcer. Well, I guess he was the referee. Your special referee. Why do they do cutoffs for referees who are wrestlers? Just wear the damn shirt. Your arms aren't that big. And Scott Steiner, I get doing it, but come on, Jarrett. Your arms aren't much bigger than mine at this point. This was an interesting dichotomy of Jarrett desperately trying to keep things on the up and up. Aldis just wanting to have a piece of Cardona in the ring. Cardona doing everything he can to sidestep this match to try to get out of it. He tried to get counted out. Jarrett wouldn't do it. Tried to get disqualified. Jarrett wouldn't do it. They fought over back behind the ring. They fought in the concessions. They tried to do everything, and he still wouldn't disqualify him. As noted on Power, we had the Cardonas come out with VSK and Mike Knox come out there, and they were neutralized by the Commonwealth. And I just felt like this match, everyone was expecting to have some sort of finish. We thought we were going to have a new world's heavyweight champion with Aldis. That's what the Tennessee crowd wanted. That's what Nashville wanted. A lot of people there wanted to see Cardona keep the belt and pin Aldis. And no one got what they wanted, which to me was the best booking decision, maybe the third best decision of the night. By making this match end the way it did, not only does it create more heat for the next one, but you basically said that Aldis doesn't need to be champion for this company to move forward. You basically said that we're going to give Cardona some time and let this breathe, which I feel like that's going to be imperative to the success going forward. But ultimately, everyone still looks strong at the end. Yes, Cardona, quote unquote tapped, but the referee never saw it, so he didn't take the L. Aldis didn't look weak. Aldis didn't look like a punk. Aldis got screwed. I was even chanting in the audience bullshit at the end of the match because Aldis did nothing wrong, and Aldis should have still had that opportunity to have a clean match with Cardona. Hopefully we'll see that down the road, but I really felt like this was solid booking. Jaden, what did you think of this match?
Fans hate DQs. A lot of bad bookers ruin disqualifications for wrestling, unfortunately. And I think the fans hated this too, but I kind of agree. They didn't need to give them a finish, and no matter how it was going to happen, it would have screwed somebody over and it would have screwed up with the NWA. So I think this was the best of a bad situation that they kind of painted themselves into. It looks like Aldis was definitely eating his ham sandwiches that night. He was in very good shape. And I thought it was a good match. Again, I wasn't as big of the finish. I think it was just they painted themselves in a corner, and that's the best way they had. It's the only way that I think they had to make as much out of it as possible. Let's see what the next match is going to be, because you got a lot of challengers for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Again, you got Aldis, you got Murdoch, who's never got his rematch. I think the Pope deserves to be in there, and for a while, it looks like they were trying to be part of there. That's why I wanted Cardona to win, because there's more money on Cardona with more big matches for Cardona than with Aldis or anybody else right now. So it was a meh, true, but
we said that on the
I think
pre-party that they finally got 5 decent challengers for Matt Cardona, because like you said, Trevor Murdoch never got the rematch. Aldis has the heat, the Pope has the cash in, and then you've got the national champion in Jack Stain, the TV champion who only needs 2 more victories to get there. So we now have 5 legitimate challenges for that World's Heavyweight Championship, and that's something that on this show we've been talking about since day one.
Yeah, it's true, and I'm glad to see something like that. In case you remember the old Jim Crockett promotions, Ric Flair had about a half a dozen people continuously going after him at any one time, whether they were in the program with Ric Flair then or not. Dusty Rhodes also kind of had the same way, where you had about 5 or 6 people talking about Dusty Rhodes and feuding with Dusty Rhodes at one time. That was more ego, but it's nice to have where there's a lot of people who want to have the championship and aren't just worrying about the tag titles, or they'll go after it when they want to later. You should always want to be the World Heavyweight Champion. And for the first time, it seems like there's a lot of people who want to take that title off of Cardona. DK?
Yeah, I mean, we had said last week that Cardona needed to win because he was, or at least keep the title, however, so that he could, because that was where you would have the money, would be in people chasing after Cardona. I'm going to say I liked the match was fine. This was less about the wrestling in the ring and more about the story being told. And so I thought they did a good job with the story. Yeah, the fans did hate the DQ, but I think they hated it for the right reason, which was nobody wants to see a DQ. You know,
Right.
I don't think they hated just damn wrestling, whatever. And I think it fit. Now, I don't even know that the NWA realized this, but the very first thing I noticed when Nick Aldis gets disqualified because Jeff Jarrett thinks that he was low blowed by
Mickey
James, even though it makes no sense whatsoever. And instead of Chelsea Green, because she had thrown Chelsea, I went back to the match with Murdoch and Aldis, where Aldis hit the referee with the chair. And so when the referee finally comes through or whatever, he disqualifies Murdoch because he saw Murdoch with the chair or something like that. And it's just like a very karma event just happened. And so back in the day, that would have been intentional. That would have been a nuanced, intentional thing. I don't know that it was, and I don't know that it wasn't here, but I liked it. And, bitch, it goes around and comes back. And I thought it was the right finish because it keeps Aldis as a strong challenger for Cardona. And that's what we need. We need strong challengers for Cardona. He didn't necessarily look weak. I mean, he did tap at the end, like I said, but okay, but nobody else really realized it. And so it was just, I don't know. I don't think Cardona came out looking weak. Aldis looks strong, which is what you needed. As we pointed out, now we got 5 different people that's realistic that they can be challenging for the world championship. I haven't heard the details, but according to Cardona, he defended his title somewhere during the taping. So we'll be seeing another title match here at some point. So I don't know against whom or what happens. But
Yuma. It's against Yuma.
Well, don't say that because because I don't want that type of energy put out to the universe. I can't complain about the match. I thought the booking was well done. I thought the story was well done. I thought they used Jeff Jarrett basically correctly. if he's not going to have a direct involvement in the outcome by punching one of them or hitting them with a guitar or whatever. And so, look, I can't complain about night two. Night two was probably the best NWA pay-per-view under the Billy Corgan era. It's probably one of the best pay-per-views, regardless of organization, that's been out there in the last few months, at least. I got the last Ring of Honor pay-per-view, and honestly, it was like an okay pay-per-view, but didn't necessarily felt, it had exceeded the value I had paid for it. And so, hey, look, maybe a nitpick here or a nitpick there, but overall, more of this, please. Really, I'm not kidding.
I think this was a sign that the pay-per-view should only been one night. The tournament should only been one night. I know the first Crockett Cup was only 8 matches, right? Or
no,
only, was
the
10?
First one that they did, or the first one that?
No, the first one that the current NWA did. It was only 8 wrestlers, right? 8 teams.
Yes.
I understand why wanting to go to 16 teams, but they don't have 16 teams to work with. They should have kept this one at 8 teams and basically did what they did, and I think it would have been a good event all the way around, and we could have had. The first night wasn't necessary. I don't think it was necessary in any way. It was just to draw some extra tickets, and again, if they would have split it up, but then if they would have split it up, we wouldn't have had this good pay-per-view.
I think you can have 16 teams if round one is done on Power. But the problem with that is you actually got to have your team set and know what your next pay-per-view is going to be, which to this day I still don't feel like, outside of the junior heavyweight tournament, I still don't feel like the NWA really knows half the time what they're going to have at their next pay-per-view.
I don't think they knew they were the junior heavyweight. I don't believe Homicide was their first choice.
Well, it's not that I necessarily believe he was their first choice, but at least between the last pay-per-view in USA, I mean, they had the 4 guys set. And so they knew the 4 guys who were going to be in the Fatal 4-Way at the end of the last pay-per-view, because USA was actually taped before the pay-per-view happened. And, but I mean, I don't know that if you believe what was out there originally, supposedly it was Cardona was supposed to win the title at the pay-per-view, but they moved early on it. So I don't think they have a booked out planned pay-per-view for 3 months or whenever the next one is. I think they have some concepts or some ideas, but you can tell that, storylines don't advance in the last week or so of Power. They just kind of, here's some wrestling, or, here we went and did a Power trip or Power X or whatever, or a house show, and, here's some stuff for that so that we can actually say what's going to be at the pay-per-view. But that's, I don't want to get too much into that. I'm going to give them their due here. They did an excellent job on night 2. I take nothing away from them. If I criticize the hell out of Billy when he fails, so I'll give him the props on this one. Good job, dude. I liked it.
They're flowers.
More like this. So, do you want to run through Power real quick?
Yeah, we're up against it, so we're going to do the quickest review of Power we've ever done.
It was good. All right, thank you guys. We'll see you next week. No.
It was good. Power was very much better than what we're used to. We get the Cardonas up front basically saying that the NWA is colluding against him. So it's still a conspiracy, Corgan conspiracy. It's just another party saying it now. Then we get Kyle Davis backstage with Jeff Jarrett. We almost get an apology from Jeff about what happened, but then kept saying like, hey, I want to redeem myself if I made a mistake. Well, come on, Jeff, you saw the video. You made a mistake. The OGK versus the Briscoes. Now, these teams have been battling for the better part of 7 years. They know each other's moves. They're, from back in the original Kingdom to the more recent Kingdom. This has been a brand war for Ring of Honor for years. They've exchanged the titles a couple times. I thought it was a great match. DK, what did you think?
I really enjoyed. It's funny. An overused phrase in wrestling is this could be a main event anywhere. When
This
normally,
one really could.
yeah. When normally it couldn't be a main event anywhere. But yeah, this not only could this one really been a main event anywhere, it probably has main evented pieces before. And so I was glad to see it. Current ROH champions versus former ROH champions, even though they don't talk about the ROH titles at all. And it was a good match. It gave the Briscoes the type of win you want to see after winning the Crockett Cup. Next.
Jaden, any thoughts?
I didn't see this, so you guys can keep going through it.
Okay, then next up we have, as I go back here to my notes, we've got May Valentine with La Rebellion. Kind of echoing what DK said earlier, it seems like they underestimated or just didn't care about what was happening in the tournament. They have nothing good to say about the OGK. They have nothing good to say about the Briscoe brothers. They aren't worried about who won the Crockett Cup. They're worried about facing the end next week. So it looks like we'll have a tag team title match next week on Power, La Rebellion versus the End. Next up, we got the new Trevor Murdoch, who this is the Trevor Murdoch I've wanted since the minute he showed up. This is a Trevor Murdoch that would have made Harley Race proud. This is a Trevor Murdoch that can beat the hell out of everyone in the NWA. And that's what he did. He beat the crap out of this kid, Brett Bosch, Boucher, whatever. You can file him under not going to be here next week. DK, your thoughts on this one?
Why the fuck wasn't this guy champion?
Yes, thank you. The interview at the podium, Trevor says, "Are you not entertained? Now you want to see how Trevor's doing? You didn't call, you didn't check up on me." He even says Kyle didn't call, and he says we asked for this, the fans, and for that I say thank you, Trevor. We did ask for this, and you delivered. Now keep doing it. Trevor has no patience for any of this horse shit anymore. Thoughts on the promo?
It was good. Again, where the fuck was this guy?
Now
this guy we should have been seeing since the end of the pandemic.
100%. 100%. Then we get the Hex, who's defending their titles 2 nights in a row now, because they remember this was taped on Monday. They face Paola Blaze and Genocide. The matchup is basically going to be I'm sorry, I skipped some stuff. Backstage, we have night 2 at the Crockett Cup. Mickey and Nick are with Kyle. Mickey loves and respects Jeff Jarrett. She never would have put her hands on him. And clearly Aldous is upset with the finish of the outcome of the match. But, of course, we get it. Of course. Moving on. Davis is up there with Tyrus and Idol, basically announcing a body slam challenge. If you want a shot at the TV title, you got to slam Tyrus. I think this is a good move because this is going to slow down the amount of wins that Tyrus has as TV champion, and it's going to slow down the amount of TV title matches, which you want to do because you don't want to put him in the front of the line for the World's Heavyweight Championship. DK, what were your thoughts on that one?
Oh, well, I was trying to figure out who they had that could slam him. And so
Camille.
about the only person I came up with was Harry Smith. Now, I know he's chasing the tag titles with Doug Williams, but it was almost like, Smith staying around and they don't win the tag titles or whatever, then I think you could look at him go after the TV title, which I'd be happy with.
Odinson.
Maybe.
Maybe.
He looks like he can throw a couple weights around. Maybe not a refrigerator, but at least some weights.
I thought Latimer when you said it. The first person I thought was Latimer, but he's hurt. But when he's healthy, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure this will drag out. I mean, I don't think anybody's slamming him next week.
No.
Lex Luger.
Luger could probably do it. Kerry Von Erich, he slammed a lot of people.
Don't forget Harley Race slammed Andre the Giant. So
yeah, maybe Trevor Murdoch slam him. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, just it was interesting for that reason.
Next we get Team Hex versus Team Taryn Terrell. This is your women's tag team championship match. Like I said previously, they defended 2 nights in a row. This match was more competitive than I thought it would be. Paola looked pretty good, like better than I saw her the last time. But Genocide is really the neutralizing factor in this match. She controls Allison Kay. She controls Marty Bell. She's definitely taking that next step. I hope they phase her out of the tag team so she can focus on becoming a singles competitor. But the match ends when Paola makes a blind tag. It backfires. Team Terrell loses and now have to split. And the Hex continue on their path to success. Anything you want to add?
I was glad that they split up Genocide.
Genocide.
It's the only reason I cared about the match. When they announced that stipulation, it's like, all right, I'll watch it.
Now, do you think who sticks with Terrell, Paola or Genocide?
I guess it depends on what they want to do with Terrell.
I mean, it certainly looked like when Genocide walked away, she was walking away from
Genocide.
both.
If they want to have her,
yeah, okay,
yeah. I mean, that's the way it's been going.
And then next up, we get Jax in the back with May Valentine. Another really good promo from Jack Zane. Feels no remorse for what he did to Mayweather. Says his mouth writes checks that his ass can, in fact, cash. I felt this was a great promo for the new champion. A great way to kick off his reign as champion. Anything you want to add to that?
Good job.
Next up, we get Tom and Camille. And Tom basically confirms that Strictly Business is out of business. And we know, behind the scenes, we know that Tom is hurt. We know Adonis requires surgery. So this is probably for the best for all parties involved anyways. There was no heat with Strictly Business right now. And when Tom gets back and healthy, someone said it in the chat, I think it might have been Firefly, that they're going to laugh when Tom goes babyface because of Camille. But that's probably going to happen. Because there's no reason for him to be heel anymore. He's out of his feud with Aldis. Doesn't look like that's going to be anything in the near future. And maybe Tom could just come back and be one of the guys who pushes for that TV title or something like that.
It was interesting because Camille was the one that was basically insulting Adonis.
Yeah. But
the fans did actually kind of react more friendly to Latimer because he was, worshiping Camille, which the fans do also. So, I mean, I think as long as they have him in this role of loving Camille and Camille being the one wearing the pants, I think that they'll probably like him.
And then the last thing, of course, is the junior heavyweight match between Homicide and Austin Aries. Let's face it, these two should have been in the finals. It should have been a full tournament, and this should have been the finals match. Homicide solidifies his championship win on Sunday night by retaining the title again here on Tuesday night. A fun match, a lot of excitement. I've heard a lot of people say that Homicide didn't look good in this match or that Austin carried him to a good match. I thought he looked pretty good from what I saw. What were your thoughts, DK?
I can't say I thought that while watching it. I don't know. I don't always get what people think. Again, another one of those things that you go, could main event anywhere. And two former ROH world champions. So I thought it was a good match to put on. I thought it was a good title defense to have. I thought Homicide looked fine. And I don't know if we'll see much of Austin Aries after this or not. I would say probably not a lot, but he may make, since it's a taping thing, he may make a couple of other appearances. I don't know. So,
and we could totally be wrong too. I mean, he could be very much a part of the show going forward. It just on the optics, on the smell factor, it doesn't. I don't think he's going to be around for much longer.
I don't know that he needs to be, because what do you do with him if you're not going to put the title on him? And that's, well, I mean, that's about it. I mean, look, let me wrap up my part and then you can take us home. When it comes to Power itself, still a little more talking than I like, but at least the matches were, mostly quality matches. None of them were just bad. So I really enjoyed this. You got to see some top people. You got to see some people that you believed in as being top wrestlers facing off for, one for a title and one for just the prestige in the opening match with Briscoes and the original Kingdom. And so, yeah, more of this, please. If anybody was there at the tapings, let me know. More of this, right? Hopefully continues this way.
We can only hope.
And, I was happy. Quick shout out to next week's the big WrestleMania weekend week. Happy to say that HWE still got its card going on Thursday night. And, the Alliance-Wrestling.com will be presenting the Excellence Championship on that night. So we can't wait. We're excited. I'll try to do live updates in the Discord. It depends on what kind of signal I have.
And we'll try to put the results, of course, on the website as well. And once the video footage is up, we'll put it on the site. Again, it's a big deal. We talked to David Fuller. We know this company. They've been around for a long time. They've been responsible for a lot of our favorite wrestlers to be booked in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And of course, I mean, their history with our pal Kevin, their history with our pal Rodney Mack, and of course their history with our pal DKM, who's part of the show. We're just really excited for everything that's happening for them out there. Of course, it's just not the iconic heroes of wrestling experience. Dang, I keep forgetting the E. What's the E?
Excellent.
The
championship that we're presenting.
I'm sorry, guys. It's been a long day. And then also they're having the hardcore show earlier that day too, the Insane Hardcore Wrestling. If that's part of your cup of tea and you enjoy both styles of wrestling, make it a double header, because I think you'll enjoy what you see. And if it's not, hey, that's cool. Check out one or the other, because they definitely will be having a fun night that evening leading into WrestleMania. My friend Jaden, I know that you have your friends at Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators have a show that's coming up. What date is that, and what can we expect from that event?
Well, I'm about to say they don't have any shows because Dog doesn't run shows. They run events. But actually, I got a little bit of breaking news for you.
Let's hear it.
Ready for some breaking news? The Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Championships are going to be held up. Apparently, the Brick City Boys, instead of honoring their commitment to the fans of Dog, would rather go take pictures with the Hardy Boys and Jay Lethal instead. So they were not going to be at the next event on April 23rd at the MaxFit Sports Center, located at 240 Delsey Drive South in beautiful uptown rustic Glassboro, New Jersey. So there will not be a Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Championship match at that event. But to make up for it, we're going to announce that the MAWA, Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Association Heavyweight Championship, which is Vinny the Fixer is their champion, will be defending against Geddy Cahoon Getty Cahoon is going to be challenging for the Mawa Championship to make up for the No Dog Tag Team Championship match. So you're going to have something special added just for that event. Another championship match, because we promised 3 championship matches and we're going to deliver. So you're going to see Getty Cahoon go after the Mawa Championship against Vinny the Fixer of the Old School Empire. Plus, don't forget the already announced Ray Jazz versus Breaker Morant, former champion who's never lost it, versus the current champion, the old school veteran versus the youngster with a whole lot of wrestling talent and potential. It is the greatest dog championship match of all time, and you need to be there. Mr. Dave Scooby, you know, dog is not a very far ride from Baltimore, Maryland. You can ride on up and come see Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. You went down to Tennessee or over to Tennessee to see it. I think you should go up to Glassboro, New Jersey on April 23rd to see not only the greatest dog championship match of all time, but a Mawa championship. Plus, you can see Patch absolutely decimate Daredevil Dave Dolan. That's worth the price of admission alone. Make sure you check out dogprowrestling.com. That's DAWG. And then from there, check out all of our social medias, and especially make sure you add the YouTube page, because this coming, I think actually tomorrow, next week, there's going to be a bunch of matches released next week to help promote that Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. To get to see never before seen matchups released next week for Dog. And while you're doing it, make sure you tell Dr. Zirconium I'm doing my job, because I could really use the paycheck right now. Girl Scout cookies have been taking all my money.
And I throw that challenge out to Rick Del Santo. I know it's a drive, man, but if you can get out there to a dog event, ask for Jaden. Maybe he can finagle you something. Anyways, we're gonna run out of time. It's 3 hours. It's the longest show we've done. So congratulations. Thank you for all who stayed here. Thank you for all who enjoyed it. And if you didn't enjoy it, that's fine too. But if you did like it, we'll see you next time at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.